Cindy.
Let's do it, Cindy.
All right, let's go. Let's call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we're going to have public comment. Members of the public. Do you
What's the
have,
roll call first?
God darn it. Aren't you guys glad I'm going to be done? Anyhow, roll call, please. Rebecca.
Okay.
That's
Director,
okay, you're good. Come
Director Underhill,
Here.
Director Ratterman,
here.
Director Davidson,
Here.
Director Thomas,
I am here.
President Cicada.
And I'm here.
Hey, President Cicada,
Yes, sir.
this is Director Thomas. Since you're going to be handing over the gavel here soon, I would like to make a special request that you allow me to address the group here under public comment.
Please do. You have
Okay. Okay, I have 5 minutes or less. Okay, Nomad, can you come up? Yeah, right up here. People around here know this young man as Damon, but of course, Damon spelled backwards is Nomad, but this is Nomad the Magnificent. And so when I heard that Director Underhill was out giving out Christmas gifts, I decided that I couldn't be outdone. So I would like to express my appreciation for my involvement in this organization and all having the opportunity to work with all these wonderful staff members, crew members, and especially this musician here. He's a good guy.
Thank you.
So this is my wish for you for having a Merry Christmas.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be gay. From now on, our troubles will be far away. Here we are as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Peaceful friends who are dear to us will be near to us once more. Through the years we always will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Very nice. This probably won't happen every meeting, but
We should have it.
That was
Very
really nice, but I want everybody to know I brought deer meat today.
All right, very good, Damon and
Gotta be
Russ.
outdone
Thank
by
you.
a song.
I can sing another song.
Nice. Do you want to sing another song before we go on? All right.
Public comment.
Public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. We have any public comment?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Donald Jensen, Copperopolis. Sit down here. So as you know, I have been working with Copperopolis on this conceptual design project, which I know that I submitted that you would all have a copy of a conceptual design that was a 22-page business plan. This started back on June the 6th, and it ended up being enacted on August the 3rd by the zoning commission. And the one thing that is very, very clear to all the people of Copperopolis is that this situation was not transparent. This situation was not completely truthful. And there's a lot of repair in that community right now that need to be done. I will be coming to this board in January with the petition that we have signed about people who want to make sure that the zoning commission and CCWD in the future make sure that there are town hall meetings prior to this kind of thing going on. And we know we're talking about the biosolids here. And that we can repair the transparency, honesty, and integrity so that we can move forward. There's, in my understanding, I have close to 1,500 signatures, and people are really just in awe of how this could have even happened. And I know that you guys kind of are too, because it seemed like at the last meeting, there was a little bit of not clear transparency that you guys felt was there either. So I just want to make sure that this board and this entity, CCWD, have an understanding that we're still moving forward with making sure that we can make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again without there being town halls. A lot of work has gone into this that was totally unnecessary if it would have been done transparently up front in the beginning. And that's on the zoning commission also. So that's not just here, that was all the way around. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment, Rebecca?
Yes.
Okay. And we're going to be watching that 3 minutes timing.
I didn't even plan this, but I was going to say Merry Christmas from Copperopolis.
Hey, Ralph.
Hi, and I'd like to thank all you guys, the board, the staff, all the people, engineering, the crews out there for all your hard work this past year. I really appreciate the work done by Mike, Russ, Jeff, Cindy, Scott, Bertha, Rebecca, Matt, Damon. I can read. So again, thank you very much for working with Copperopolis, doing all what you have for Copperopolis, and keeping us front and center in your dealings through the year. I also took out a home equity loan and got 2 pounds of chocolate from C's, and it's out there for you guys to enjoy yourself. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I know we'll see you next year.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Anyone else? Here we go.
Yes.
I'll do my best not to start a rendition of White Christmas, but my name is Doug Ricketts. I am a 26-year customer of your organization. We have some property in Copperopolis at Lake Tulloch. And we recently heard about this, the plan for biosolids, and I just wanted to voice my concern that I think placing a biosolids plant around Lake Tulloch, which I think is an emerging recreation area, currently with a golf course, with an emerging new town, and with a fair amount of new real estate. I know that this is all in the early planning stages, but I just wanted to, in this early stage, as people are considering where to place a biosolids plant, I wanted to just voice my opposition. I thought that, to me, Lake Tulloch and Copperopolis is sort of the jewel of Calaveras County. and that it would not be the appropriate place to put a biosolids plant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Say Merry Christmas. Thank you for the song. Last meeting, November 9th, I presented 2 buildings that are in Copperopolis that needed repair. I was pretty strong. I had pictures to show everybody that the actual condition that they're in.
So, sorry, this is for items that aren't on the agenda. We actually are talking about this very topic on.
Okay, that
one of our
would be
items
one
that's
thing
on
I
the
didn't
agenda.
understand if I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
read over here.
No, no.
Because I didn't see it listed in here with Damon.
So
didn't know.
it's the facilities, how did we title it?
I think 5C.
Five
I think
B.
it's 5B.
Sorry,
So
I'm new to
we'll,
this.
we'll talk about that building in particular and provide an update then, and then there'd be an opportunity to provide.
Then what I
comment.
would like to
So-
say is thank you very much. I went for a walk yesterday and walked by one of the buildings and you've already started progress. And I'm very impressed and I want to tell you that it made my day.
Well,
And I
now,
did
now
thank
you're
the
stealing
gentleman.
Damon's thunder.
And I did thank the gentleman.
Did you bring photos?
No, but I brought cookies to the guys doing the work. Thank you very much and happy
Thank you. Merry
holidays.
Christmas.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. I misunderstood.
All right, any others?
No.
That's it. Okay. At this time, we are going to go into item 3A, the board reconstitution and election for of officers. And this is where I let Michael take over the meeting.
And, well, first we have to seat the new board members. So,
Oh, I don't see that on.
Let the open the nominations.
No, they gotta see the officers.
so the new board members will be sworn in and seated by the clerk of the board. So, do you want to have them, do you want to administer the oath and we'll do all 3 at the same time? I think. Congratulations on your hard fought election victories. What's that?
Thank you.
Cindy, do you have the ability to turn a camera on?
I do, just not for very long. Let's see, does that
Okay.
work? Hello.
So do you want to take care of all 3 of those first?
So
Please stand
Director
up.
Underhill, Director Thomas, and President Cicada. Yep, please stand.
Please stand, yeah.
Okay, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Russ Thomas,
Underhill,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will
support and defend the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
that
I will well and faithfully discharge the duties about which I am about to enter. That's it?
There we go.
No music?
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations. There we go. I will now call for the nomination for the board president
Can
for
we
the
do them
upcoming year.
together?
So I'll do the nomination for president, and then at that point, the president will take
Okay.
over and call for the nomination for vice president.
Okay, I'd like to nominate Director Radaman for the office of president.
Second?
I'd like to move to close the nominations.
Let's see. So, okay, roll call.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada.
Yes.
And roll call for the vote for president.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada.
Yes.
And President Ratterman, would you like to take over for vice president?
Okay, we're open to nominations for vice president.
I nominate Russ Thomas.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Do we need to close the
Move
nominations?
move that we close the nomination.
Second.
I move that we close the nomination. I second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to close nominations. Roll call.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
President Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada.
Yes.
And now we already have a motion and a second roll call for Russ Thomas, Director Thomas as vice president.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
President Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada.
Yes.
Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations to the new
Congratulations.
officers.
Okay, and item item 3 is we're going to take a minute to do this. I'm going to ask emails to Rebecca from each board director, which committees that you're in, which committees that you're interested in, please get an email off to her. And the same thing with any associations of interest to the agency as well, and the JPAs. Anything else on this item? Okay, that was item 3A. We're going to item 4, our consent agenda. The following items are expected to be routine, non-controversial. Items will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member may request that any item be removed for later discussion.
I'll move for acceptance of the consent agenda.
Second.
Wow, nothing's being pulled. This is the longest consent agenda I've ever seen. Oh, Rebecca, can you take the roll call?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
President Ratterman.
Yes. Okay, item 5, new business. Recognition of Tony Atnett for his 27 years of service at the district. Damon. Manod.
Thank you, President Ratterman. Tony, could you come on up here? I would like to just say a few words about Tony. When I started as a treatment operator in 2005 here at CCWD, Tony was the distribution crew leader up in West Point. And we had a service line leak, or actually it was a transmission main leak between E and F tank. You remember that? Yeah. And Tony and I went out there to take a look, and the next thing you know, as we step out into the mud, we were about waist deep. And that struck up a great friendship. And when I came back to CCWD, it was great to see that Tony was still here and still, the man about all things water and wastewater up in West Point. So really appreciate you, everything you've done here for the district. And I have a resolution here that the district has presented you with. And I'd like to go ahead and read this for y'all. So a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District recognizing Tony Atnip. Whereas Tony Atnip has faithfully served the ratepayers of the Calaveras County Water District as a district employee for 27 years. And whereas Tony began working for the district as a part-time worker in January of 1995 in the operations department as a maintenance worker. And whereas in 97, Tony was hired as a full-time collection worker and was quickly promoted to a leadman in January of 2001, and then a maintenance foreman in March of 2004, working throughout all service areas of the district. And whereas Tony then became a senior distribution worker in November of 2007, and remained in that position primarily serving the West Point service area for nearly 12 years. And whereas Tony was reclassified as a senior construction worker in July of 2019, where he continued to provide invaluable help to the entire operations department through his vast knowledge of the district. And whereas Tony has diligently operated and maintained the West Point water system for the majority of his career, where he was known to cover the water treatment plant operations routine when needed. And whereas Tony has provided reliable and comprehensive support to the collections crew and troubleshooting system issues, saving the district time and money. Whereas Tony participated in countless safety committees throughout his career. And whereas Tony's friendly, easygoing nature allowed him to befriend stray cats and forest creatures, including a squirrel named Whiskers. Whereas Tony has been a key member of the CCWD field crew. His responsiveness and reliability have been a critical asset to the district for more than 20 years. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District and all co-workers hereby wish Tony all the best in his retirement. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
I'd like to thank you guys for this resolution. It's been a pleasure to work for you guys. The district has its ups and downs, and but for me, I'm not leaving because of any ups or downs. I'm leaving because it's just time. And I hope you guys the very best. I hope the district's going. You guys headed in the right direction. I've always seen the district as a positive thing, and I'm leaving with a positive attitude. It's just time. It's not with any grudges or anything like that. It's just time for me to go. So you guys, yeah, I'd stay if I was about 10 years younger. Not a problem here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For all those years.
I just want to say I've worked side by side with Tony for the last 10 years I've been here in many different situations, and it's been an honor and a privilege to work with you, and there's a lot of knowledge going out the door with you, so you're going to be missed, and I just want to, on behalf of everyone, say congratulations and good luck in whatever's next.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to say something. I was talking to Tony this morning, and I'm asking you for just 6 more months, Tony. And he said, no.
Not that I wouldn't like to give it, but it's no, it's fine. If I stay another 6 months, then I may as well stay another 6 years.
I know Tony was here prior to Jeff coming on.
I was kind of wondering where I am on the line.
I remember when Jeff first took office.
Remember what a jackass I used to be? So glad I got out of that.
When did that happen?
Just like anything else, there's good times and bad times and whatever else, but it all works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be good.
We've done a lot.
So,
Patrick,
so I can remember coming on a couple years later after Jeff, and Tony Atnip was the name in West Point. I mean, with reverence, we regard Tony Atnip.
The whole business has changed. When I got here, the first thing they had you was a pair of rubber boots and a shovel, and you dug everything up with a backhoe or by hand. Now, the guys go out there, if you give them rubber boots, they probably wouldn't even know how to put them on. That's better. It's a lot better. No, they're all good men and women you've hired. I have no complaints about any of them.
Well, Tony, yeah, 27 years is an amazing achievement. You're definitely going to be missed. Your positive attitude and all that you contribute to the district and Navy service before that, right?
Yeah, no, it's Army.
Oh, sorry, Army, gosh.
No, Army.
Use that. So, yeah, just thank you for your service to the country. Thank you for your service to CCWD, and you get a well-earned retirement coming. So
thank you.
All the best.
Maybe before he leaves, he should do a few instructional videos on how to put the rubber boots on. Which end of the ladder goes up? And- Thank you. Kurt.
Thank you, Tony.
Patrick, what about all this knowledge that's going out the door with him? Do you have his cell phone number? Well, that's
Down for us the last few weeks.
that's comforting for me to hear. That's good.
Well, thank you, Tony, for your
Thank you, Tony.
27 years. I heard nothing but good from West Point and you. Good job. Good job. Okay, item 5B, Damon, presentation of the state of district buildings and facilities.
Oh, we need to resolve that.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Motion.
The recognition for Tony Atnett for his 27 years of service
I'll
at the
move for
district.
acceptance.
Second.
Second, you take a roll?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
President Ratterman.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, 5B, Damon.
Thank you, President Ratterman. So as we kind of discussed earlier, a little bit in public comment, the topic of the condition of district buildings and facilities has been at the forefront of some board meetings in the recent past. And that has really compelled staff. We've got the message, and I think I want to take this opportunity to kind of talk about how we have addressed resolving deficient buildings and facilities in the past and how we do that now, and kind of give everybody an overview of the condition, thank you, of some of the buildings that we have now and what we're looking at, and really how we go about prioritizing when we make repairs. And I just want to acknowledge that George Garcia is here in the audience. He was our retired facilities maintenance tech as of August. Hope you're enjoying your retirement. And Tony can have some coffee and talk about the.
This is no way to enjoy your retirement, George.
So just to kind of give everybody a breakdown over recap. So CCWD has 13 wastewater facilities, hopefully soon 12 within the next couple year or so. We're consolidating the Wilseyville and West Point wastewater treatment facilities. And we have 6 water systems. And so associated with the water systems and the wastewater systems are countless pump stations. We have 31 lift stations around Lake Tulloch alone. So we have all of these facilities need maintenance. And as you know, we've talked about earlier, and maybe we'll talk about here in a little bit, we also have facilities that are, for lack of a better term, decommissioned, that we also need to maintain and develop plans to either remove or keep in operation. And so really what we have here is Jesse and his team. Jesse's our plant operations manager, went out through the field and provided some pictures to give everybody an idea of some of the improvements we're looking at. What you see here is the Arnold wastewater treatment facility. So you get a glimpse into what we call the laboratory. This is where the treatment operators have their computer system and where they can conduct their daily wastewater quality samples. You can see in the image on the left, the ceiling has some discoloration and some holes from leaking. And this facility, actually, George did some work here recently. We end up getting seepage in the image on the right. It's a little hard to see, but the building is pushed up against the embankment. And so water has a tendency to seep through there, and it comes through the laboratory walls. And so in the recent past, George had installed these overhangs over our split unit air conditioning units, and more work needs to be done here. We actually need to put some sort of French drain in the back here to reroute water around this building. One of the challenges is we have PG&E really close underground there. So this is one that we were working on prior to George's leaving, and we still need to resolve. This is Arnold Lift Station 2. Hopefully you can kind of get an understanding of The siding is in need of repair. The paint is discolored. We need to repaint this building. So we have a rechlorination station at our sawmill tank. This is essentially a fiberglass building. And we have issues in the snow that we can't get into the building all the time because of the way the door swings. So this is, and you can see in the image on the right, the venting is corroding. One of the, and just another one that we need to work to improve. Here's Dorrington Pump Station. So this conveys treated water to the farther ends of our distribution system in the Ebbets Pass service area. We need to improve the siding. I believe it was last year, we put a new roof on this pump station, and that was a great improvement. This one's under some heavy tree cover, and that was quite an improvement to that one. Here's our Hunter's water treatment plant. The carpet has essentially worn away to the subfloor, and the cabinetry needs replacement. Here's our Larkspur pump station. This pump station is the siding. It's really beautiful the way that it was installed. It was kind of got a geometric pattern. It's not just your uniform lap siding. However, it is old and it's in disrepair, and the building, the entire pump station itself is in need of improvement, as you can see in the inside. And this is actually identified on our CIP, as are a fair number of these projects for rehab and or replacement. Let's see here, the next one, Forest Meadows wastewater or treatment facility. As you can see, the siding is in need of some rehabilitation. And we also, this is our filter pump station or filter building, which also needs a lot of rehabilitation. We actually have purchased a new UV system, which lives right outside of this building. And with some of the money that we have in our CIP currently, we'll work to rehabilitate the building and some of the infrastructure inside of it. You can see this is looking up inside the building, all the runs of conduit and insulation. There's a lot of, there's a heavy electrical presence because of the UV, and we have an uninterruptible power source, which has these very large batteries that will keep that system in operation even when the power fails. And we have a lot of analytical equipment in the building also, hence all the conduit runs for electrical. Here's our Indian Rock wastewater treatment facility. So these are small buildings that house chart recorders and other analytical equipment. They're in need of rehabilitation. In 2020, the district completed a rehab on the actual treatment process. However, did not finish the building. So we need to circle back and get this completed also. Here's a picture of the building on the east side of the east field. And here's copper. We've talked about copper a little bit in the past. A lot of the copper lift stations need paint. So as you can see, kind of the venting, the metal venting has been corroded on this lift station. This one is off of Little John near Moccasin, needs to be repainted. We need recoating. Some of the sites, if you were to look at them from a security perspective, also need an improved fencing. And this is the old raw water pump station, one of which has been talked about in the recent past multiple times. This used to be an office. Our collections crew would use this post it being utilized as a raw water pump station to convey water to the old water treatment plant. It was also used as a collection system office. And in the past, I would say at least 5 years, it hasn't been used at all. And there has been discussion with the copper HOA in the past about perhaps the HOA making use of the building. However, the district still needs to hydraulically disconnect the pump stations that are in the lower level, which you can kind of see on the image on the right, from the lake itself, and obviously rehab the building. You can see some of the pictures on the inside. And then here's the old water plant. And so this is the one that we were talking about just a minute ago. We were able to get the Vallecito crew and some of our staff over to the site to replace some of the slats that are in the fencing and also to work to repaint the building. And that work continues. Here's some cleanup on the outside, kind of the entry to the drive. Somebody had dropped some debris off. And then the inside of the plant, the challenge with the old copper water treatment plant is it is still hydraulically connected to the system in the street. So it's disconnected here. However, we need to actually come in and hot tap and install a valve on the piping in the street to be able to completely disconnect this facility from our distribution system. So that work will take place. Here's our sea tank building. This is a pressure station at our actual sea tank site. And you can see it's kind of in a similar condition as the two other, the Kiva buildings that we call them. And you just some more pictures of the sea tank site and the generator. And here's the warehouse in copper. It's kind of hard to see in the image on the left, but there's an improvement that needs to be made to the ceiling. The building needs some TLC. Jenny Lind Water Treatment Plant. Some of the doors here at the treatment facility need rehabilitation. Some of the parts of the jam on the image on the left need rehab. The lock antenna wastewater treatment plant, similar condition. We need to rehab and paint the doors, and then the compressor building on the right needs some additional siding work. Here's a Jenny Lind rental. So this is a property that we own that is near our water treatment facilities. So CCWD really needs to make a determination on what our plan is going to be for this rental and rehabilitate it or dismantle it and use the property for make use of it as in another way. So this conversation routinely comes up. Here's the Wallace Waste Treatment Facility, just general building improvements that need to be made on the eave and the roof and some of the siding there. And following it up with Southworth, you can see some dry rot on the building there. And so really, just to kind of highlight everything that I talked about here is the fact that CCWD has worked in the past to make improvements in multiple ways. And some of the things that I didn't highlight, because I just wanted to give everybody an understanding of kind of what we're facing, is that we do also have a list of improvements that we have made. So in last fiscal year, we replaced the roofs on 3 lift stations in the Conroe Estates area, HOA, and we also repainted 4 of those. And so this work is going to continue. We're going to continue to rehab these buildings in multiple ways via capital improvement projects, through facilities maintenance, and also with our construction crew and other crews. So if we can, and if we can take advantage of others to help us, i.e. with the CAL FIRE Vallecito camp crew, we will do so. And so oftentimes it's going to be a little bit of everything in order to get some of these buildings back to the condition that they need to be, that our customers expect from CCWD. So the work continues, it's ongoing, and we hear you loud and clear, and we're going to keep on working on finding solutions to effectively get it done, even if it's not necessarily identified in one of our plans, i.e. the CIP.
Okay. So
Questions?
what you've done is gone through and identified what needs to be done. And you're telling us about the different people who will be working on these projects. Now, do you have any kind of a time frame on?
So generally what we do is at the beginning of the fiscal year, we will identify what we want to accomplish. And if that all makes it through the budget process, then we will have that fiscal year to get that work done.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things I also didn't highlight here are we also own a fair amount of empty lots and just general property that we also have to maintain. So there's fence work associated with that, or herbicide spraying, or weed eating or mowing.
Mm-hmm.
That will, sometimes we'll have our staff do that, and sometimes we'll create a project and we'll have, we'll put out a bid request for local contractors to do some of that work.
One of the questions that I had is, you have a great big generator just out there. Are you going to be building any kind of a covering for it, or is there a roof
At which location?
In.
Oh, in this
you have
image
the-
here?
Yeah,
So the one that we showed you at the Tank C site is all secure, so that is all fenced. But you can rest assured that if we do have any generator that is exposed,
that was. what-
when we find out about it, Pat, Jesse and myself, we work to get it secured. You know,
Because I'm thinking of the elements coming down on that generator. That's what I'm thinking.
gotcha. I'm always worried about the human element because I know the
Oh.
radiators are expensive and valuable and so we actually have a field supervisor meeting tomorrow, and one of our topics is security and keeping our equipment and material secure in light of the state that we're in.
Okay.
Oh, when it comes time for public comment, we'll let you know. We're discussing it at a board level is how the meeting works. Russ?
Yeah, getting back to your comment about you'll have to wait until we have budget discussions for the next fiscal year, but won't that put off all this work? It would put off any of this work until after August? Is that correct?
That is true. However, if we can leverage our crews and our GL, our routine operations budget to make some headway, that's what we will do. So if we don't have a project identified, it's in the current fiscal year's budget, but we understand that there's going to be an issue or we can make some improvements, we would go to the materials and supplies ledger and say, hey, you know, we have some funds that we haven't spent in the ops department. Let's go ahead and buy X, Y, and Z siding or whatever it might be and get the construction crew or some other crew over there to make it happen.
Well, I've got sensitivity about that because the people who are here complaining are from my district. And I think that I said that improperly. We don't have districts, we have divisions. But anyway, I think that I could recall that on our budget, we have a certain amount of money that's just in an account called contingencies. And I don't think that, you know, a coat of paint and some slats on a fence and maybe, you know, getting that building there by the Kiva ramp emptied out, that's not a huge amount of money, but it's a huge concern to the community, it appears. So can't we do something to find a way to get that accomplished?
So that's what we're doing.
Okay.
But I don't have a contingency GL. That would be great. I would put a lot of money in that GL, but absolutely, yeah. Point taken.
Yeah, we don't have a contingency GL. So we would, and I think part of what we wanted to demonstrate today is just kind of the scope of the problem, and how there's going to be multiple, you know, approaches to resolving it, because not all of it can be done, even if we had the ability to redirect staff resources away from operational concerns. You know, we wouldn't be able to do all of it in-house anyway. So I think we'll have sort of a multi-faceted effort. Some of it we will be able to do with in-house resources. Some of it is going to have to be, you know, budgeted for and planned further in advance and outsourced. And so we'll tackle those things as we have resources available.
So George, what are you doing Monday?
You know,
unfortunately, we don't get to tell George what he's doing on Monday anymore.
Anymore. What I'd like to propose an idea is identify, get a scope of work from each area, Copperopolis, Arnold, and a scope of work, check off the items on that specific scope of work that we're going to be addressing within in-house, and then put it out to bid in the rest of the scope of work. Have engineering work up approximate bids on what it should cost, run it up the flagpole for outside contractors in those specific areas. And there's a lot of contractors that may not be that busy, and see what may not be our regular contractors that we work with on a regular basis. But if we run that up the flagpole, we'll get a small construction crew going in Copperopolis, another one going in Jenny Lynn, and see what we're faced with. I mean, it is a task. If this is a partial list of what we're looking at, you get into the details and how many square feet of siding or,
Yep.
or paint or what we're looking at and, get a scope of work and get it priced and see where we're at. I don't think we're that far away. It is awful lot of stuff, but it's gone on for a long time. George, what the hell were you doing when you were here?
Yeah.
And that's part of, I think that's one of the, I think we're gonna look kind of cold through the project, see what we might be able to prioritize in-house. And then the rest of it, we're gonna have to put out to bid and when did we have budget for it though? Right now, this year, we didn't budget for that work. But that'll come probably in the next fiscal year.
Well, I hate to hear, if I'm hearing we're kicking a can down the road for 6 months, that's probably not gonna work with this board.
Well-
If we need a budget adjustment, we've done those before. And I don't think we're talking about a huge adjustment for this type of a project.
There's multiple factors there, though. Part of it is budget adjustment, part of it is staff bandwidth, even if we are outsourcing it. So we hadn't planned to do any of the bigger, the heavier lifts that we've discussed here is not really in the work plan for the next 6 months. So some of that we're gonna try to prioritize and address. Others, it's gonna take longer than that.
Oh, definitely. I can see not getting it all done, but
Okay. Excuse me, we do have a painting crew. We do have an electrical crew.
We have an electrical crew and we have a construction crew.
Mhm.
Yeah, but we don't have folks that are, I think for some time the district did have a painter, in-house painter. We don't have one currently, but points well taken. And to follow you up, Vice President Thomas, yes, absolutely. When there's opportunities that present themselves within the budget and we have the ability to bring folks in like the CAL FIRE crew to help us, and then we can devote staff to get work done, we will do so.
Have we lessened dependency on the CAL FIRE crew or the Vallecito crew?
No, we try to use them as much as possible, but a lot of what we do utilize them for is grubbing and brushing and cleaning and
I
clearing.
think I've asked that
Yeah.
question before. Yeah.
So this was kind of a change in the way that we use the Vallecito crew, but I'm sure they welcomed it.
See if they have any painters.
Yeah, right.
Cindy, do you have anything?
Everybody has a painter.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Thank you for asking. On the two projects, if you will, identified at the last couple of meetings, do you have any cost to just kind of make it look a little better? Maybe it wouldn't be exactly perfect, but better than what it looks like, something we could do sooner than later. And is it possible that we could put together a group of volunteers if we're talking something like painting and replacing a little bit of siding in that area? Or is that something that just doesn't work?
So we do have a cost estimate, but it's not so much just for painting and for some of the siding cleanup that is incorporated, but we also have costs that are associated with, excuse me, specifically at the water treatment plant, removing the pressure vessel filters and capping the backwash system, which is frankly a safety hazard if folks were to get behind the security fence. And so that was all kind of wrapped into a project that we do have sitting on the shelf for the treatment plant. For the pump station, we need to disconnect those pumps and remove those pumps and do some housekeeping on the inside offices. And then, yes, Director Cicada, we do have costs associated with just cleanup of the inside, cleanup of the outside. That one is less, oh, sorry, excuse me.
I was just, it's like when we have an issue like this, we all of a sudden, oh, well, now we have to do this, and that. Now all of a sudden the project gets, more costly, more to do. Is there any way we could break this down to say, let's just do the siding and the painting? So one, the eyesore is taken care of, and then next fiscal year factor in removing pumps and whatever the other stuff that you said. Just one, that way we can at least make it look better and just break it down, make it so it's more attainable instead of, oh wait, we have all this to do, and now instead of a $2,000 job, it's going to be a $40,000 job or whatever. can we do something like that? One, to help the community, and two, again, just break it down into something we could afford to do sooner than later.
Absolutely, I can do that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you missed the part Director Cicada, where we have done some of that already, where there's been some improvement. There's more to do, but we are gonna address these issues as we have resources available.
Okay, can you bring this back, part of your operations report, let's say, and say, here, we've got this wall painted or what have you. I just want to make sure that we're moving forward the best we can to help a concern that a customer has brought to our attention. I think that would be great.
Yep, we can do that.
Thank you.
When,
Yep.
I have one other I want a question answered here about that tank. That's a 2,000 gallon tank or something, that will be removed when you disconnect from the street. Is that correct or not?
So that could potentially be I would say a significant cost, but a fairly significant cost, because that is the old pressure vessel. So we've looked at some options there. Yeah, we want to remove that. We need to get rid of the media that's inside of it, and then we need to cut it up and get it out of there. So the facility is connected inside the building to the system. And so in order to be able to, because one of my initial goals was to just raise the building, eliminate it, and clean the lot up. However, when we started to look into that, we realized that from the B tank zone, if you will, which is up the hill from this treatment facility, it's connected in the street. And so we actually have roughly 80 some odd pounds of pressure at a pressure gauge in the building. So when the building was decommissioned, they just blind flanged a certain section of piping and left the rest, for lack of a better term, hot. And so we need to tap the water main outside in the street and install a valve. It's called a hot tap. And a hot tap is usually around $15,000 just to hot tap the pipe. And so this is all, I have a document associated with rehabilitating the raw water building and then discussing an opportunity for the HOA to make use of it and raising the treatment facility. And kind of what we're doing currently is cleaning the treatment facility up, making it presentable. So in anticipation of ultimately eliminating the facility entirely.
And just to follow up on that, because one of the other things we've discussed at the staff level as we've kind of gone through this is not creating this problem again. Because I think going forward, we're going to be much more proactive about making sure when we take facilities offline, when we decommission facilities, we're not going to leave a mess that gets cleaned up later. Part of the project should be completely decommission and resolve those issues with the old infrastructure and not just leaving it behind. Because I think we just sort of have inherited a backlog of that. And so we want to make sure we're not contributing to that problem as we move forward with a lot of infrastructure projects. We're also addressing these issues, which I think probably get, in the grand scale of building a new treatment plant, it probably just got forgotten about, or, they just didn't include decommissioning the old plant in the engineering and construction contract. So that's something we've made sure we're addressing going forward.
All that stuff's older than 22 years.
Yeah.
Any other discussion at board level? Public comment on this item? If you have public comment, please come up, introduce yourself and make your comment at the microphone, please. Thank you.
We've owned a home on Lake Shore below that that scared me a bit when you talked about the pressure sitting there. When we purchased that, I remember that we're right on the creek that comes, and so there would be this daily flush of water that would come down this creek and then end up in our cove at the lake. And then 1 year it just stopped. And so I don't know, and I don't know where it goes now, but maybe that's tied into the new treatment plants, or was this What kind of water was that? That
So
was
that was backwash water
Backwash,
from the
okay.
old water treatment plant that pushed, so water went through that big pressure vessel on site. And then periodically that pressure vessel needed to be cleaned.
Mhm.
So the system would take clean water,
Okay.
push it in the reverse direction and discharge it by your house.
Mhm.
And I presume it went to the lake.
Yeah, it goes down to, we have a little lagoon right down there at the end of the creek.
So when the new treatment plant was built, the backwash system at the new treatment plant, because the filters still need to be cleaned, all of the water that is used to clean them
Mhm.
is recycled on site.
Mhm.
So there's
So-
basins.
Right.
So
You're doing that, so it doesn't come down there.
it doesn't come your way.
Okay, yeah, so I noticed it hadn't been coming down. Okay, and so that's interesting. So then, so this, you have it, but you have some pressure coming into that area. And so I agree with you that that needs to take place
Yeah,
because that's been decommissioned for a while.
yes.
And so then you start to worry about rust, corrosion, whatever, and you have all this, woo,
Yes, absolutely.
back, okay. And then I guess the other thing I was thinking about was when we were looking for a property and we ended up in Copper Cove, we also looked over at Connor Estates. And so I was noticing you were talking about, oh, we did these repairs on Connor Estates, blah, blah, blah. Connor Estates is a lot newer than the Copper Cove area. How did they come to get the repairs on their things before the older areas? I mean, that's just a little, how you guys.
Couple
decide?
things. So the facilities that are still in operation that we need to function are the most
Okay.
important.
Makes sense.
And the fact that they interact with wastewater and gases associated with wastewater make them deteriorate much more quickly
Okay.
than water facilities.
Makes perfect.
And so routinely with all the wastewater lift stations, you'll see that those buildings need to be rehabilitated quicker than the water facilities.
Makes perfect sense. Just needed that explained. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a question in decommissioning Kiva Cove. When power goes out, I hear heavy generators going off at the Kiva boat launch area. And I'm assuming it's CCWD. And I'm just wondering if that's part of the infrastructure you're thinking of taking down, or what do those generators do when the power goes out?
So that is a generator at one of our most critical lift stations, lift station 16, which is right by the boat ramp. So it's kind of down the hill from the building itself.
Okay.
And so that needs to operate because that conveys sewage to the treatment.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah,
So that's that, okay.
separate from the raw water building. Yeah.
Okay, okay, good. Good to know. Thank you.
So, my two buildings, which you have started work on,
Yeah, yeah.
and I so appreciate that. You're talking about not being able to get to the next ones possibly in the next 6 months. And I know there's a lot out there and the functioning ones have to come first. But in the two buildings that I was discussing, I'm really happy that you worked on this one because it becomes a hangout sometimes for kids. They
Gotcha.
drink over there and there's no lights, broken windows. But the other one is at the boat launch.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is it's in worse shape. And the actual handrail on that one is wobbly. When we come in through here, a lot of people have, especially in the height of the season, which would be when you could possibly get to it, if it gets on the list with everything before it. Boats park here, kids are out, parents are wiping down, and they mess around over here. And this here, I walked down in through there, and this handrail is literally wobbly. So it's a safety problem as well, because they busted out windows in the back. The building is, so I would like to see that one possibly because it is such a used area, be up on your list. If it could be.
This is very high actually on the.
Okay.
So part of working with the Vallecito crew is that we can't necessarily ask them to do certain things that might be out of their ability to do, or they lack the experience. And so one of the issues with the actual boat launch building is the back of the building. It's so high. So were we to ask them to paint it, we're gonna need to get scaffolding there, and then we're gonna need to ask the Vallecito crew, if the captain, if it's even, can we get these folks up on the scaffolding? So this is gonna actually be more of a district project. Yeah, it's gonna be more of a CCWD / contractor project. Doesn't mean that we're not gonna address what we can with that crew now. We just ran out of daylight, and then, as it works with the CAL FIRE crew, is the different utilities in the county will request their services. And
Right.
so we need.
When
to-
they're not working.
Yeah, we get back on the docket, we will get them over there. We need to finish what we're doing at the water building. And then we can go focus some attention on the raw and also address those issues kind of on the back of the building and some of the
Because that's
concrete and the
concern,
metal
right?
and the handrails, stuff that really you can't ask a CAL FIRE crew to do with our construction crew and with contractors.
Okay, so maybe even just removing that part of it, so it doesn't
Right.
have the interest for people to even want to go down.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think, yes, absolutely. And then one of my focuses is really just to disconnect the pumps.
Right, you told me that
And
last night.
disconnect the power, get the pumps out of there. So then we can actually rehabilitate the building and then maybe there's a use for it.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, as well.
That beautiful passionate woman is my wife. And as they say, happy wife, happy life. Thank you, CCWD, and thank you. It's making my life better.
Happy house, happy spouse.
George Garcia, ex CCWD worker. I'd like to address the board on that, the whole matters of what they're discussing on projects being done. I went through it, started it on myself, and sometimes having help by other people, the guys there. This is a big thing that I see that needs to be done, you know, repairing these buildings, what needs to be teared down by in-house if you can do it. Having that painter, having that plumber, having that electrician, that's something, you know, contracting it out is very costly. And I'll tell you, I've been into that. Most of the jobs we had, doing the roofings, doing that, contracted out by Paris Scott Roofing, always worked with us, did a good deal. So just thinking, maybe replacing, make sure you get something in-house, make people, you know, it's gonna save in the long run, but getting these little projects done, and just thought I'd give that out. Good job.
Great. Thank you, George. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none.
Well, I just
Oh,
want
go
to
ahead.
ask, I want to ask Damon a question about this, replacing the valve in the hot tap that you talked about. We've, I'm sure it happens in other areas, but in Copper Cove area, we've had a number of out of service notices for, you know, put up signs, say we're going to be out of service or water for 10 hours. And we do it in a time when most people wouldn't be using large amounts of water. So from the tank on the top of the hill going down to that facility, aren't there intermediate shutoffs? There
No.
are none.
Unfortunately, so what this pipe was the original conveyance to the storage tank from the treatment plant.
I see.
So there was just a straight pipe, because heaven forbid, if you shut that off and those pumps try to push against the dead head, you're gonna blow
Yeah. everything
everything up. And so I think the quick fix was let's uncouple it in the building and, the unfortunate result is now when we go to really address the issue, we have full head of 2 tanks and a hillside looking at it. So,
Well, C-tank has a valve at the bottom of the tank, doesn't it?
so
To shut it off?
the B tanks, this is the B tank site.
Okay.
So I'll have to confirm whether, I'm sure the steel tank does, I just don't know if the redwood tank does. So we'll have to look at that. Even so, you have, I don't know, how many feet of head pressure of pipe looking at you.
Well, but
So that would shut the entire south side of Lake Tulloch, take them out of water and put them on potentially a boil water advisory.
You do a hot tap, you gotta do the bacteria test.
No,
Oh, no.
yeah.
Well, I know that there was a line item that we approved for copper fire for flushing meters or fire hydrants. I'd just like to see the calculation about how much water is run down the side of the road with each fire hydrant flushing. And this lady, I didn't get her name, but she said that the water used to run down that creek past her house. I mean, just thinking out of the box a little bit, if we shut that water off And so that you could do that without a hot tap. How much water would we lose into the lake? I don't know, just.
Yeah, understood. I think it would, happy to take that offline and talk to you about it. I think it would be more associated with the excavation because it's going to be significant. And then we'd have to cut in a valve and that's going to be significant. So it's not a, we had a main break. If we have a line break, not to scare anybody in that location, we're going to be out of water for quite some time because it's going to be a significant repair. So to install a valve is also going to take quite a bit of time. And so, we can dive in and look at the metrics of that because to bring in tap masters is oftentimes, it's expensive, but it gets the job done. I would also like to acknowledge Pat and Jesse and their crews, Ron Rose in particular, who works with the CAL FIRE crews to kind of provide some assistance to the position that George had and acknowledge George and all the work he did while he was here. But yeah, I will be happy to sit down and discuss that with you.
No, thank you, Damon. Okay, moving on, next item on our agenda is 5C, discussion action regarding Division 5 Jenny Lynn and La Quintana North Vista Plaza Water and Wastewater Service Facility Agreement. And this is Nomad again.
I do not believe that this is Division 5.
It's not.
Oh, Division 5. I thought it was like, is this item 5?
It
I
is.
don't think that makes a big deal.
No.
No, it doesn't matter.
It
I'm
doesn't.
just trying to think of this. I'm trying to picture the
I'm
map.
start down to Silver Rapids.
Yeah, I'm looking at,
This is where
I've
you
seen,
guys tried to rob me of my home and kick me out of my district.
That's right. I remember that.
well, it's Division,
Michael carried the torch. No, I'm just kidding.
it's Division 1, but other than that, let's go ahead with it.
Yes, absolutely happy to do so. So LGI Homes, who Jonathan and Evan are here today, representatives, have a 156 unit development that they would like to record a map for on Vista del Lago North. This is kind of, I believe.
West.
We might,
Isn't it Bill? West?
Yeah, it's North Vista Plaza is what the development is called. And I think we have an image that we can try to share to orient everybody. And so really what the objective is today is to enter into a facilities agreement with LGI Homes so that we can move forward with ultimately the implementation of this project. And this will allow them to be able to record the map and we can follow through with reviewing the design, final design.
I just have a couple of preliminary questions. I think I asked this in the engineering committee before, but what's the current of the general plan? Is this property designated for low density housing? Is it agriculture? What's its current or like the new use that is on the general plan?
You guys were just at the planning commission last week, so maybe you might be able to give a better.
Go ahead, come on up to the microphone, introduce yourself again.
I'm Evan Light. I work in acquisitions with LGI Homes. So this project in 2008 was approved for a tentative map and general plan amendment into, I believe it's R1 zoning. And so a portion of the lots are 6,000 square foot minimums. And then there's also some what we call courtyard villa cluster homes that are sort of a smaller lot, more affordable product.
Okay, so you have density, is it low, obviously it's low density, what, 6 units per acre or something like that?
I think so. I'd have to review the zoning
And
code.
that's the current status of the general plan. The county's general plan that has land use.
I can't answer specifically what the general plan says, but I know that we have an approved tentative map and any sort of zoning regulations with that were approved back in 2008.
That they would have, I mean, I'm pretty familiar with all the property down in that area, and I thought this property was still in ag, but I mean, if you have a tentative map, then you have a tentative map, but whether or not that they transferred that, and this is just one of those things that frustrates me. I don't want to be proposing developments that that the county doesn't already have. I mean, they spent 20 years on a general plan. You know, we shouldn't be really searching outside the boundary of where they're currently telling, because that's where we plan. You know, we should be planning inside those areas, not necessarily outside those areas. So I just want to voice that concern, and maybe even we need to develop some sort of a policy in regards to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they have the flexibility to change those land use designations, but I think the current, I know, planning is and public works are both working to move this project forward. So they're on board and supporting it, and it's scheduled to have final map approval next month, I believe.
I just, if somebody would just, I guess I could look it up myself, but I just kind of want to see it. I'm not gonna make a big deal out of this.
Yeah.
If the county's, if the county is gonna work that way, I just want us to have a heads up. You know, if they're proposing things, when we all we can do is take a planning area and look at the land uses that are in our service area and make some estimates on how we're gonna accommodate all that. I've always thought that the water district's responsibility was to accommodate the general plan. And, we've got properties that are high density developments down in Burston, that there's no sewer system out there at all. And so we're not gonna really develop out there. I mean, you can't really, but the areas that are close where we're at now, we should be trying to, build that center of town better. So anyway, I'm supportive of it. I want to follow up on that and just maybe even have a conversation with the county, just to make sure that they understand where we're coming from. And if we need to have a board policy, then I'd like to look into that.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment from the board?
Whatever.
Damon, is there more to present?
So one of the items, and Michael helped me out here, is we have an attachment B that we would like you to.
Yeah, and it kind of dovetails with what we were just talking about. So, anytime we're looking at a new project, we're gonna obviously take a very careful look at the water and sewer infrastructure that the project proponent is building on site to serve the new project. We're also gonna look at our water and wastewater system to make sure that any impacts to existing infrastructure are mitigated by the new project, so that current customers don't pay for new development. That's always something we're very sensitive to. And that would be true regardless of the land use designation. Even if it was previously zoned for high density, we may still have that issue where there's offsite improvements that are required of the project. It's probably, in general, it's probably going to be more so, it's going to apply more when it wasn't zoned that way, it wasn't planned that way, especially if it's outside of an urban area. This one's pretty close in. And so if it was, Burson and they were developing a new area where we didn't have any infrastructure, the offsite improvements for the developer are going to be significantly higher. You understand all that. So we've had some really productive discussions with LGI Homes about both the review of the plans for the improvements within the subdivision, and then the two items that we flagged for offsite improvements that they'd be responsible for contributing to, upsizing a force main and contributing to improvements at Huckleberry Lift Station. So those are things we've resolved with them. We're giving you a different attachment B than what was included in the agenda packet. It's actually a little smaller, shorter, so it's easier to understand probably. It doesn't change the obligation. Basically, what we've calculated is the developer's responsible for 48% of the cost of upsizing the force main, where we have a bottleneck in that area. The payment mechanism might change, and so that's why we had to change the language here at the last minute a little bit, and I appreciate you guys' flexibility on that, because we're still going to have to work with them to resolve the coordination between this project and the Jenny Lind Elementary School project, and the timing of payments and who's paying for which construction activity at which time. And we have the added complication of that being the other project being a water board grant funded project, which brings the water board into play and makes it much more complicated. It's great to have the grant funded projects, but they're harder to administer. So we just wanted to create without, they still have the same obligation here that we had before. We're just gonna have to work on timing, sequencing, who's doing which project and when.
The complication for the grant funded portion of this, we can't separate them.
Right. So that was initially, we might have to. We didn't, initially, we were thinking, the previous draft had LGI Homes building all of it with reimbursement for the portion they're not responsible for. But in going back and reviewing the grant funding agreement with Jenny Lind Elementary, we don't think that, we might still be able to do it that way, but probably not.
Will that just have to go out to?
And they may have to be two separate projects.
Typical, is it federal grant or is it state grant?
It's Water Board, which is typically federally funded, but it's through the
So then
state
it's just,
revolving fund.
it's automatic lowest bidder, no choices.
And only for a portion of the improvements that are referenced here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll work through all
I'm
that.
looking to trying to separate their part, so they don't have to mess with that.
Exactly.
That's right.
So it gets a little bit complicated, but we'll resolve all that, and get these improvements done prior to, the build out of the development. The other piece that we'll probably bring back to the board, I think in January, we're looking at, we've had some discussions about the BOLD program, which is a way to do CFD funding for capacity fees. You could also use it for offsite improvements. I think in this case, we're just talking about capacity fees, pre-funding those through that financing mechanism. That doesn't have to be done prior to the facilities agreement approval, but we're optimistic that that's going to work, and we probably bring that back to the board next month.
So explain that a little better. You talk about like a bond just for these improvements?
Yeah, so the way this program works is it's basically a CFD, which we're familiar with. The nice thing about it is we don't have to administer it.
What certificate?
Community Facilities District, so pre-funding, yeah, bond sales to pre-fund infrastructure. And so but it's administered by a statewide JPA that would handle the bonds and would handle the administration of the CFD for the life of them. So that's a huge benefit for the district to pre-fund those infrastructure costs without the burden of administering the program in-house, which we've done before and is a.
Well, I mean, he knows why I'm laughing. I'm laughing because of 8604.
Right.
We have one developer that is entirely responsible for the payment of that infrastructure. In 8604's case, we had 4 landowners that owned 75% of it, and none of them ever paid nickel.
Right.
Went into default.
So I think there are a lot of lessons we've learned from that experience, in addition to a lot of the other, because we've had other assessment districts that worked out very well. And so, but even in those cases, we're still occasionally refinancing those bonds, or we're handling, bankruptcies or foreclosures, and we're still administering the assessment district or the CFD. And so that's the nice thing about this is we're not even listed on the property tax bill. It's all done through the JPA that administers the program. So, but that's, again, we don't have to decide that. We'll bring that back with a lot more detail when we probably next month. For the facilities agreement, we've modified our standard facilities agreement, which is why it's before the board today. We wanted to flag attachment B because those are the 2 offsite improvements that we've identified that the developer is responsible for contributing to. And but other than that, I think it's been great working with LGI, and we're excited about the project.
So Evan and Jonathan are here if you guys have any questions for them. Other than that, the ask is to approve this facilities agreement.
This is an action item. Any comments?
I have favorable comments. I like what you've done here, but I have a question about Rick Engineering Company. I've never seen such a detailed subdivision improvement plan. Do you pay them by the letter or by the ink?
Yeah, they've been really great for us and they've actually been involved since we talked about this project started. I think in 2005 is when it first started getting entitled. They were involved back with, I think Robbie Creamer was his name. I never met him, but they talked fondly of him. And so it's been great. I would say that's sort of the saving grace of keeping a legacy project like this alive is they've been with us the whole time. They have the historical knowledge and we've had a lot of help from CCWD. So it's huge thanks to Michael and Damon and Charles and Sam and the whole staff because everybody pitched in together to get where we are today and we're excited about it.
The late, great Robbie Creamer, another former employee that left. Bertha,
I'll move for acceptance of approving the water and wastewater sewer facility agreement with LGI Homes.
I'll second that.
okay, we got a motion and a second. Bertha or Cindy, any comments?
None.
Cindy?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, I just have one, and looking at the map, are those street names final? Or will some
Making a pitch?
substitute?
Does it just
originality?
say A Street and B
A
Street?
Street, B Street through H and I Street.
It's funny,
Valley Springs, we don't have that yet, but
I was just on the phone with Doug Oliver, the building official this morning. They're gonna finalize the street names this week. So that's one of the last few items that we have to do to
and
finalize.
those aren't gonna be them.
I would just advise you to take note of our board members' names.
Yeah, Ratterman Court would look good on that.
Okay.
Davidson Street.
Well, I have a George W. Bush street sign.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go.
Yes, we know, Jeff.
Okay, we're
Years
gonna
ago,
ask,
I had to name two streets. One was Ronald Reagan, the other was George W. Bush. The George W. one eventually got changed, so I got that sign if you want to save a buck.
okay, we're gonna ask for public comment on this. Go ahead.
Ralph Copeland, Copperopolis. I'd like to thank Director Davidson for bringing up the general plan. Yes, it did take 20 long years to put it together. And I do hope that the developer is very conscious of it. Also, I believe Valley Springs has a community plan. If it affects the particular neighborhood, I'm not sure, but it wouldn't hurt for the developer to review it and stay in sync with what the locals desire. 2008 was a long time ago. I ran across the same situation with Saddle Creek Development. They hung their hat on the general plan that was before 2008, and it created a lot of issues. So I hope this particular developer is very conscious of the current general plan and also the local community plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Can I clarify one thing before you vote? The motion included the changed attachment B, is that?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, it's not dated or anything, but the
Right.
attachment B system impact.
Yeah, okay.
So the motion does include the updated attachment B. And just, we're calling it Division 5. Is it possible that those divisions from that new map don't take place until January 1st? Or are they already from the census? They're already,
Went into.
I don't think that was my district anyway.
yeah, across the street from La Cantera?
I don't think so.
Is that a holdover from? the
Yeah,
county?
Well,
my district
do-
ended.
Do the divisions here match that of the county?
No.
Okay, because I know I think it's in District 5 of the county and it's,
There you go. It makes-
you go across the street and it's District 1, so.
Division 1 takes up that whole area down to, what's the name of the cross street?
Silver Rapids.
Silver Rapids.
Got it.
So,
And our boundaries are different.
yeah,
So that change will be made.
that's not even in the
It's not
motion.
on that yet.
Yeah, it's just a title of the item on our agenda.
Okay.
Becca, we take roll?
Yes.
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 If you're asking for me, that's a yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. Okay, item 5D, discussion action regarding implementation of third-party credit card transaction fees. Jessica Self, External Affairs Manager.
Good afternoon. So earlier this year, the board approved a resolution authorizing credit card transaction fees and IVR payment processing fees to be paid by the payee and no longer the district. And it also authorized staff to move forward in implementing those charges. So I have a little handout for you guys, and Rebecca has it up on the screen just to kind of talk through this process. So once that resolution was adopted, staff started working on implementing these fees. We were able to implement the IVR transaction fee. So that's the payment processing fee that's charged through Tyler Technologies, our customer service billing software. So when anyone makes a payment online over the phone, that fee is charged, and that's a processing fee that is charged by Tyler. The other part of that, the transaction fees, is the credit card transaction fee. So we've been working with our third payment processor, Global Payments, third-party payment processor, to assess what percentage to apply to customers. So we're not able to, because there are so many variations in credit card percentages, we're unable to, and the Tyler software is unable to charge a specific percentage for each credit card. So what we had to do in-house is to assess credit card charges, how much those fees are, and provide a percentage. And that percentage will lump the IVR payment, which is that Tyler payment processing fee, with the credit card percentage, so that it's 1%. So if you look on this handout, you'll see that if someone pays by ACH check or debit, they will just get charged that IVR transaction fee. If they pay by credit card, what will happen is that IVR transaction fee plus the credit card transaction fee is bundled into a percentage. And when when staff conducted that calculation comes out to be a 3.9% convenience fee. So that will include both of those fees. And then what's not included on this page, just as a reminder, is that if a customer pays by check and mails it in, there's no charge for anything on that one. And then as you'll see down below, you'll see the breakdown of how this 3.9% fee was calculated. So that's taking into consideration the average number of credit card transactions charges over the past year, and then totaling the amount of fees associated with those charges, and then adding what the IVR transaction fee is included into that, and then taking the percentage of that. So that's how we calculated that 3.9% fee. And then if the board approves this, moving forward, staff will assess this percentage based on credit card usage and credit card percentages, because those do fluctuate as well.
Excuse me. ACH is? It's I always forget what it's called, something clearinghouse. So that's where if you pay online and you can use your checking and routing number to pay online. Okay.
So basically this is using your checking account. That first option is using your checking account.
I personally don't agree with this, because you go in and I'm paying my bill and you're taking money directly out of my checking account and I have to pay $2.
Correct. So that is what Tyler charges anytime someone makes a payment. And that is the processing fee for the cost of making that transaction through our software.
Regardless of the fact that it's coming directly out of my checking account.
Correct. It's the charge of the software making that payment, processing that fee.
I think we already decided earlier this year to pass on these charges.
Well, no.
These convenience charges for being able to do debit or credit. And so this is what the calculation.
And I still do not agree.
Did you vote against that item?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Scott, can I jump in for a second?
Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, so, that fee for an ACH, I agree with Bertha that it is very expensive. And that's just something Tyler is charging. And they're charging it because they're going to input the payment. There is another company out there called Vanco, I've mentioned it to you before, that will do ACH payments no matter, as long as it's coming out of a checking account or a savings account, and it's a 50-cent fee. I wouldn't mind CCWD absorbing a 50-cent fee because one, we could put them on like email billing and then we wouldn't have to mail a statement, save the money. It's 50 cents cheaper than postage. But I don't think we can get around the fee for a credit card. I think that definitely should be borne by the person who uses the credit card. And, in my opinion, I don't like the $2, but I would rather them pay it than us pay it. But I think the $2 is a lot of money. And the reason why it is because Tyler is having them input the payment. If we use something like Vanco for ACH services, we would have to input the payment, which, okay, don't we do that already somehow? Not, we most certainly should. And
So this, sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, go ahead.
So I think just to clarify, so the IVR payment, that's an automated payment. Right, so staff are not doing that.
Correct. So, and that's why it's $2. Tyler keeps that $2 for entering the payment in our account, correct? Posting the payment to the customer's account, which ultimately gets forwarded to our bank.
Correct.
Could we, with what Cindy's talking about, could we involve the company she's talking about and work with Tyler in some way and have it be 50 cents instead of $2?
We've looked into this, and do you want to?
Good afternoon, Kelly Richards, Customer Service Supervisor. So one of the limitations that we're facing with the Tyler portal is that they integrate directly with OpenEdge Global Payments only. So there would be no integration. So we're not talking real-time payments. We're talking, there would be a delay. There would be a separate website and more than likely that customers would have to go to. So you're looking at two separate portals. You're looking at a standalone payment portal that customers would need to go to make a payment. And then you would be looking at the Tyler Smart Portal, which we're ultimately going to be rolling out for the usage on the new AMI meters. So when we're looking at, customer satisfaction, I've been in an organization where we've had two separate portals and it's just led to a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
And a lot of kind of customer unhappiness.
Okay, wait,
So,
can I
just
jump in
my-
here? Let me jump in here 1 second. So I understand what you're saying and I agree, you don't want all these extra portals. But does anybody come to the office and write a check and hand it to staff to enter? Do you do any of that anymore?
Yes, we still process
so that's
payments over the counter.
Okay, that's good. So we do check and cash over the counter. This Vanco, in essence, is over the counter. What happens is, and I would love to come by and I can show you how simple and easy it is. It just takes staff to do it. So what happens is you have the customer fill out an authorization form and they're customized to what helps, to make it say CCWD. They fill out the authorization form. CCWD staff goes online to the Vanco portal. This is not connected to our website at all. This is almost an over-the-counter. So then they put in the authorization form, how much it is. We charge, meaning MSD, we charge a one-time setup fee of 50 cents because there is a setup fee of 50 cents. We give that to the customer. So we set it up, and then whatever date we choose at MSD, we give the customer, they can choose any date from the 1st through the 25th. You can make it any date you want. You can make it a bi-monthly payment. You can make it a quarterly payment, an annual, a weekly. You are allowed to set that up. And so what happens, staff sets up the payment, and then you're going to get a report from Vanco. And however, if it's daily, if you have people making payments daily, weekly, whatever it is, then you're going to get an email report with the customer's account number and the date of the payment and the amount. And then somebody, a staff member, has to enter the payment, just as if somebody came in to the counter and said, here you go. And if you don't want to do it daily, let's say you have 300 customers that want to use this, and we have almost 400, so it's very doable. You could say, okay, payments like this are only available. You can only do it on and let's pick a day that is the slowest day for staff. Let's say it's the 10th of the month or whatever. And say, okay, so the payment comes out of your account on the 10th of each month. And then it's all done automatically, ACH, which is the automatic, whatever it is, done. And then staff just has to enter it from a nice, beautiful report they get via email. And it's very easy. I would love to show staff how MSD does it. And it's easy. And I have never, ever, and I think we've been doing it 8 years. No, actually, we've been doing it since 2011. And we've never had any problem ever with it. So just saying, it's a good system. Now, if somebody wants to pay online and pay the $2 fee, go for it. But having this other option is nothing to do with the website, nothing to do with Tyler. It's an over-the-counter, in essence, payment. Very
Aren't
simple.
over-the-counter payments free? Someone
Oh,
comes in,
that's-
writes a check and hands it to you, that's free. Okay.
Okay.
Doesn't cost $2.
Or if they mail it in.
Or if they mail it in, right.
I'm saying it's like an over-the-counter. That's how staff would process it. But for a 50-cent fee, I would be okay with CCWD absorbing a 50-cent fee.
So if I can just add one other thing. So the Tyler system actually does provide for like internal processing of ACH. There are setups for that in the system to allow that, but it would be entirely employee driven. We would have to perform that in-house. And then correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there may be some PCI compliance that goes along with having access to that kind of information. So there's other elements that come into play when you're looking at alternatives. And I think, you know, right now, the way that it's currently set up is for the convenience of just utilizing Tyler as facilitating these payments for the customers. Not to say that there aren't alternatives, but this is currently the way the system is
So
set up.
back to the PCI compliance, you're right, there is some, but if you use Vanco, you have to just sign this little certificate, if you will, because they are the one that process the PCI, and actually the PCI is only for credit cards. So you're going to have that compliance over with Tyler. I'm suggesting you only use Vanco for checking accounts or saving accounts, no credit cards, because then you're back to you can't control the cost. So my other question is, didn't staff used to enter payments? So if somebody wants to pay by a check, why shouldn't staff enter the check payment and make it a more usable fee, you know, and then for the credit card fees are the awful ones, in my opinion, and people who want to use credit cards, let them pay that higher fee. But, you know, what is, you know, do we not have staff that can enter payments?
Cindy, I'm going to suggest that you take this conversation offline with customer service. I think there's a whole lot of details here. We're going down rabbit holes that aren't really on our agenda today. We're either going to deny this request of staff, or we're going to accept it and vote yay or nay on it. There are a lot of other options, as Kelly has, and there's probably a lot of other companies besides the one that MSD is using. You may have a better system, but this time is probably not the best use of our time to go through into very much detail into how other systems might work.
Well, and just to clarify too, what we're asking, because we brought this to the finance committee last month. The the direction from the board, 'cause you're right, the direction from the board last summer was pass these costs through. What we're dealing with is it's not as easy as we thought it was going to be to pass these costs through. And so we had that discussion at the finance committee. We have a path, we have a way that we can pass the costs through, but the direction from the finance committee was to bring the percentage amount that we're going to charge to the board for approval before we move forward in recovering those costs. So
Okay,
that's the item. The 3.9% is the item that's before the board today. We did look at other districts. A lot of districts just absorb all of these costs because they would rather not pass these through because of the administrative headaches that are associated with it, and you just roll that into your operating budget. And some districts will just have a flat 3% or 3.5%, whatever it is. What we couldn't do was a kind of a bifurcated charge, which was initially what we were trying to do. And so we had to crunch some numbers to come up with the 3.9%, and that's the approval we're asking the board.
So I do see the motion here is for just 3.9% third-party credit card convenience fee. Doesn't say anything about a $2 ACH fee. So
we're already passing that through to customers.
Okay, so that's already something that's being done. So the item in front of us is.
So if there are other ways to create a pathway for customers to avoid those costs, I think that's still something that we can do in the future. We're not necessarily precluding that here, but what we're saying here is we're going to pass through the $2 charge, and we're going to charge 3.9% for credit card transactions.
Well, and that's why I suggested that Director Cicada, who does work for a different utility district in the county, has a different way of doing it, that she approach, and we may change this again. I mean, may bring it in front of us as Tyler becomes more familiar to staff and customer service. We may find a lot better ways of doing this and cheaper ways of doing this. We're already passing through the $2, and what we're going to decide today is, do we want to implement this 3.9% and pass that along to customers or not?
I'd like to make that motion, Scott, that we go ahead and pass this fee on.
Okay, so we do have a motion.
I have a question before I second this, but is there urgency involved in this? Our next meeting would be January 11th. Could we put this off until then and give Director Cicada a chance to come in and run these ideas past you and just bring it back and approve it then, approve it with modifications or what?
So once again, what she brought up doesn't have anything to do with what you are voting on today.
Well, it does in a way because the $2
Well,
IVR.
Yeah, the IVR is lumped in with the 3.9, so it's.
Let me jump in for a second. I think the convenience fee for the credit card is fine. If a customer wants to use it and they pay that and we pass it on, I have no problem with that. Because Bertha mentioned that $2 IVR fee. I agree, it's high, and we could revisit that. But again, that's not what's on the table. I say we pass the fees, that's important. And if staff wants to talk to me about what I call Vanco, and I would use Vanco only for the ACH, not the credit card. So we could look at that at any time they want, but I think we definitely pass on the fees.
There's no specific deadline here. The one, the sense of urgency I think we feel is we didn't budget for those credit card transaction fees because we were assuming we were going to be able to pass them through. And so we're now way over budget because we're still paying those surcharges. And so we'd like to move forward with it. If we're going to go that route, we're probably already going to have a mid-year budget adjustment on this item because we've already gone past our budget for what we had anticipated spending on credit card transactions. The longer, we can do it however the board wants to do it. We can not pass that charge through at all.
Even if we kick it down the road to January 11th, we're in a time crunch during Christmas and the holidays of having Cindy come down and talk to customer service. Tyler's still in the process of being implemented. All the answers are not going to be by July.
Talking about changing the 3.9.
Right. No. So all that's on our plate today is the 3.9. We got a motion.
Okay. But I have a question. Part of the credit card fees is saying we have a $2 IVR plus a credit card transaction fee.
Correct. And if, whether the customer pays for it or we pay for it, that's what Tyler charges for the transaction. And as Director Cicada said, she wants to talk about just the ACH. So the credit card, if anyone's paying via credit card on Tyler or through our software, Tyler's going to charge $2. So it's either the district pays for it or the customer pays for
Isn't
it.
that the discussion that we should have when we develop our rate hearings? I mean, if we want to lump all these together, because I mean, this is how people are generally, I mean, I don't know what the percentages of people that are actually sending in checks is, but you know, the online, the debit card, the credit card, that's probably as popular as the mail-in checks. So maybe what we need to do is, because I mean, this is a cost. It's either going to be paid by the customers now or it's going to be paid by the customers later. And we're just fooling everybody if we don't think it, you know, we should just say we're going to take care of all this and it's going to cost another $1.50 a month per customer on our rates, as opposed to, because I can't stand when government does the whole, you know, it's the little girl with the lemonade stand, lemonade 50 cents. And then she go up to get your lemonade. She's like, well, the cup is another 50 cents. You know, I just assume we just did it all, you know, just told the truth, you know.
Which is what we did before. We observed it all.
And that's what a lot of,
And
like I
how
said,
much
that's what a
was
lot of
that?
districts do.
And that was $130,000, right? Or is it 160 that we
So-
paid in a budget year before? We're trying to avoid that. Actually, Cindy, I think you're the one that brought that to our attention.
So Scott, let me say something else. You know, this isn't convenient for people, and most people will pay it. They don't like it and they'll bitch about it. But why should we spread this cost as an operating budget? So, you know, half of the district or 3/4 of the district can have a convenient, the other quarter who can't use it still have to pay for it. I still stick with my motion. Let's approve what they're putting here, and we can bring all this back to the table again at some other point in time. But we as a district should not be absorbing any kind of credit card transaction fees.
Okay,
agree.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion here? Any public comment?
My name is Doug Ricketts from Copper Cove. I think I've been a very heavy user of electronic transactions like this for many, many years. I just want to just make one comment. I'll support what Bertha's saying. To me, it's highly unusual to pay an ACH fee to do a debit card. It's very typical to pay a fee for a credit card.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I
So it's
agree.
from an external customer point of view, it seems very typical to me to have an ACH charge.
Thank you. I agree. You take roll.
Director Underhill.
And how am I going to vote? No, I think we should look at it in more depth.
Director Davidson.
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes.
Director Cicada.
Yes.
President Retterman.
Yes.
And if I could just make one more comment, Scott,
No,
I
no,
don't.
no, you can't. That agenda item's done. You're out of order.
I would love to work with staff offline and show them how simple it can be to make it where the ACH, the payments ACH could be zero to the customer. But as far as credit cards goes, we cannot absorb that. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me talk.
No, and
No,
I
no, thank you,
agree.
thank
I
you.
agree.
I agree as well. And there's so many moving parts in our customer service department right now with the new meters and a new software system. I think we will be looking at new proposals of what it's going to make their job easier and less expensive for the district as this next year unfolds. A lot of balls in the air, I think. Next item on our agenda is going to be.
Director Retterman, or President Retterman.
Yes, yes, Director.
We've been here 2 hours. Can we take a short?
Oh,
break?
yeah. Let's, before we get to 5C, let's take a short break.
Thank you, folks, for coming.
Oh,
Do we need to restart anything? Okay. Item 5E on our agenda, discussion, direction regarding board member compensation. Michael Minkler.
I'm gonna introduce this one pretty quickly, I think, but So we've talked about this before, and we included a kind of a summary of the history of board compensation in the staff report. Starting back in 1994, when it was set at $100 per meeting. In 2006, let's see, 10 meeting days per month. 2006 it went down to 6 meeting days per month. 2008 it went up to 105 per meeting at 10 meeting days per month with a 5% annual increase, which brought it up by 2010. That brought it up to 135 per meeting with 7 meeting days per month. Leaving the 5% annual increase in place, I think.
No, in 2010, it was 110 and then.
Oh, yeah, sorry. 2010, it was 110. By 2015, it was 135. The board reduced it to 120 per meeting, took away the annual increase and capped it at 6 meeting days per month, which I believe is actually the statutory limit. So we do not have the flexibility to go above 6 meetings per month. Where the board does have discretion is on the monthly, or sorry, the per meeting dollar amount. It can be, per the statute, it can be increased up to 5% per year, but not more, as long as that is adopted as part of our board policy. So we would have to, any changes the board recommends, we would have to bring back as an ordinance for approval.
So this is just discussing.
So this is just a discussion.
The other thing that I have to throw into this discussion is the compensation amount, dollar total. And it's in these inflationary times for breakfast, lunch and dinner. With the dollar.
That's something else we could discuss. We would have to bring back as well. But yeah, so
we could discuss
right now
it
it's
though, right?
$20 per breakfast, $20 per lunch and $30 per dinner. And yeah.
I think it's
harder to get a meal.
I think it's, I think it's 40 for dinner. It might, is it?
I think it's 30.
Okay.
You can get an appetizer for that.
But that's not what we're talking about.
We could also, so we could include that in the discussion and bring it back. Either way, we would have to bring the direction from the board back as in the form of an ordinance to update any portion of that.
Yeah, 2020 and 30.
Right.
All right. Okay.
I say we bring a sack lunch, Scott.
Say it again?
I bring a sack lunch, you know, peanut butter jelly, blood.
Oh, right.
Well, it usually comes up, I come up against it too, where it's not, usually you're not in a scenario where that's even an option. You're going from one meeting to the next and you're stopping for lunch in between, and you may come up against those limits.
No, and when we go to conferences, and the conferences we went to, we've been in Napa and Palm Springs, it's very, very difficult to find a dinner for $30. And that's just where the conference is. We're not going to drive to the next town to eat dinner. And a lot of times you're without the ability to drive anyway. You're at the hotel where the conference is with no rental car and no shuttle taking people to dinner and back.
But you're out of town, right?
Right, out of town and subject to the,
somebody's paid for.
out of town and subject to the $30 limit to buy your own dinner.
But that's, you know.
And that is,
only out of
that
town,
applies to
obviously.
all staff. That's the district policy. That's not just a board policy.
Right. But we're talking about revisions to this particular policy, which is in the packet.
I'd like to see.
So we discussed this at finance committee. Sorry, real quick, Director Cicada. We discussed this at finance committee a few weeks ago, and the direction was to bring it to the full board for discussion.
I'd like to just say, I'd like to see some changes made. And if it can only be in the dollar amount, fine. If it can be in the amount of meetings, okay. And then as far as talking about reimbursements when you're traveling, I think those should be updated as well.
Is there a, like for travel, we have IRS mileage?
Yeah.
That's always,
That's gone up.
Is there a standard throughout California on per diem?
Good question. There probably, there might be, I'm not sure. We could probably look for different indexes to.
Yeah, I just wonder if there is one.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And now with the gas prices coming down, that's going to be a matter of discussion, right?
For mileage reimbursement, we just adopt the IRS rate, whatever, and they adjust that every year. So.
And that changed in the middle of the year, this last year, because of inflation, which it never had before.
Okay, well, I'll just make my statement, and that's the fact that I'm not voting for an increase in compensation for the meeting. I think 120 per meeting is fine, and I'm looking at it from the standpoint that, and I've said this before, we have vision, we have dental, we have medical, and I'm satisfied.
Cindy, you said you were looking for some changes, but didn't specifically say what they were.
I think 120 is good. However, it hasn't been changed for a long time. And I know I spend quite a bit of time on it, which I'm sure you all do as well. And I don't think it's bad. It's hard for me to say because I'm being hypocritical about not wanting to spend other people's money. But I think ratepayers are happy with what we're doing. And as long as we keep working well with them, you know, having just a small increase is not unheard of.
Such as. I'm digging for a number. Go ahead, Russ.
I'm gonna let somebody else speak up.
I agree things other than 5% anyway.
It's the most.
Yeah, but I don't think that 5% is an appropriate number. It should be lower than that. But I haven't heard specifically what happened during that period from 2008 up through 2010, where it got up to $135 per meeting and 7 meetings a month. And I've heard discussion about some people kind of milk that a little bit.
Oh,
So-
Jesus Christ, you just terrible.
So,
Well, there was only between 2010 and 2015 is when you're talking about when it escalated by 5%. Basically, it was just $5. It went up $5 per year from 2010 to 2015 and went from 110 to 135. And then we voted in 2010 to it was at 135. We voted in 2015 to keep it level, which is where we're at now. But it wasn't that much different. It was seven meetings per month, which I guess at the time, was that against the statute? In violation of the statute rather at the time?
No, there's 2 statutes. One was specific to us that allowed more meetings, and then a new statute was enacted that overrode that caps to 6.
Okay, so we're capped at 6 and currently at 120. The most we can go up is 5% from 120, which you just did some math, didn't you?
I was going to, then I lost interest. You're right, I was getting ready to do it. That's it.
Okay, so it'd go up to, the most it could go up to is 125, 126, if we did decide to go that route. So I don't need a number anymore, Cindy. Let's do a number less than that.
Thank you. I just wanted to start the dialogue because I'm
Thank
sure
you.
it's uncomfortable for all of us to talk about. It is for me.
What happened with the abuse was, we had people going to lectures in Berkeley, on a regular basis, racking up mileage, staying at anything. And what the real fix was saying that it had to be, that it had to have something to do with CCWD on the agenda or to be one of our associations. And that really kind of, fixed that. But we had directors that were, billing over, $20,000 a year. Clearly it wasn't in the best interest of the ratepayer, so. I don't really have any issue with it. If there's an increase in the per diem, I think, when our directors are away, that's probably appropriate, but I think that there is a standard out there.
Sure.
We can find it. It exists.
Subway.
So am I to understand that if we had a number that we could approve, it could be no higher than 126. That is the 5%.
You can go 5% per year. So you can, if you were to increase the 120, you could only go 5% above that. You, as you had
And
in
then
the
next month,
past,
another 5%.
next year, you did 5%. Or you could set it as it was before, it was on automatic escalator. Before the board changed that in 2015.
I think the 5% of the 120, right? That would be
Yeah.
$6.
Well, if that's as high as we can go, that's what I would recommend, that we go with more as soon as we can to 126. And then, I don't know, 2 to 2.5% increase annually after that. And I'm not saying that apologetically at all, because I know that I spend an awful lot of extra time besides when I'm sitting here reviewing agenda packets and trying to make myself a better director. And
Trust me, it even ends up evening out.
it does.
Yeah, because I don't really look at mine.
Well, that's,
He opens up the envelope right here in front of us.
that's what we're nothing new. It may
You know-
work for you, but it, no, I learned a long time ago that the most embarrassing question you can ask in a public forum is a question that the answer is in the agenda packet. I read it from start to finish.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, and so with what Jeff was saying, I think, regarding people who are just going anywhere and charging the district, I think we have it pretty well listed with what we can attend and get paid for, right?
Yeah, we did away with that. We took care of that problem back in 2015. And since then, I don't think we've had any issues with it.
Exactly. So if that's been resolved, I think an increase is warranted, and we keep an eye on it. And if we have an issue, if we think somebody is not doing right by it, bring it up to Michael and let Michael take care of it. Be the
Okay,
bad guy.
my 2 cents is that I think we're good on the 120. I don't think I'm not in agreement for increasing it now or having an escalator. I think the 120 is fine for what we did. And mainly for the reasons that Bertha pointed out, is we have other benefits that are much, much more valuable than this 120 and worth much, much more than $6 a meeting available to us through the benefit package that we get. But I would like to see staff look at the meal reimbursement limit and see what if anything it should be. I think it should be raised, but to what should it be raised? I don't know. It's a little research might help on that.
We'll take a look. Yeah.
So how does Jeff feel about it?
I don't really, I mean, I think it's appropriate to do both, but I don't, it won't affect my life at all.
Well, it may not affect your life, but how about future directors? So it should be something that, it has not gone unnoticed by me that anytime that a bargaining unit wants some increase, they get it. Anytime that the
We need a
general
union.
manager
We
wants
need a
it,
union, don't we?
That's what that means.
anytime the general manager wants an increase, he gets it. But a board member or two ask for an increase and we get slapped down by our own directors. That's just wrong. I need to, I'm gonna call for an
Hey,
election.
The other thing that happens is when you give yourself a 5% increase, everybody else thinks they deserve a 5% increase.
I didn't say 5%. I'm going 2% lower than the last increase that was given to the bargaining unit. So anyway, if you are ambivalent on it, and Cindy and I think that there should be how much would it cost me to change to make your vote?
$6. Figure something out.
$7 beer.
Yeah.
So Matt's
Well,
taking
we're not,
notes.
we gotta bring this back anyway, right? But-
Right.
The question is, you want it brought back.
Well, if we were gonna bring it back, we'd have to publish notice in the paper. We'd have to bring it back. It's an ordinance. So we would have to decide what the amount is gonna be, how we're gonna revise the policy, notice that and bring it back.
I believe that we should explore, I mean, $6 a month isn't gonna make a difference really to anybody, or $36, whatever it is, 42. It isn't gonna make that big of a difference, anybody, but I mean,
It's
I
the
don't want people
principle.
not to be able to go, I mean, like, for instance, like, I've been to DC many times, just a simple breakfast there was 20 some dollars, breakfast and a cup of coffee. I don't know if ours covers that, because I never return my stuff anyway, so, but, I mean, that's just my choice, I try not to do that, but I don't want people not to be able to, be productive in those meetings and have to go off someplace else. I mean,
Well, usually what happens is we do it anyways, and then the employee covers any portion over what the district policy is capped at, is the employee is responsible for.
well, like I said, I'd be happy to take a look at both of those. But I just think that there's an industry standard out there on the per diem, and I'm sure it's gone up. So that's what I said.
Okay, and still, that is something aside from what this item.
Two different
agenda
things.
is.
No, they're all included in the same thing. It's all the same ordinance.
Mhm.
It's all the
Okay,
ordinance.
but
No, I think
we're
these
not
are- no,
discussing.
these are
Yeah, we are.
separate.
We are discussing this ordinance and changing it. And whereabouts in it do we want to change?
Like you said,
Anything in it can change.
Okay,
So
but
we-
specifically, I'm hearing that our amount per meeting is not going to be changed.
No. You've heard from Russ and Cindy that they want it to change and go up. And so we're looking give direction to what dollar amount. Russ is proposing 5%, and then now and 2% built-in escalator for all future years going forward. Similar to what we had what we did in 2010, but it would be 2% annual increase instead of 5. Jeff is waffling and hasn't given a straight answer on that part of it.
But just think about
I'm the Christian cinema of the board.
Do we
Are you
have
blind?
that?
Or are you mansion?
in 50
Right.
years, listen, Jeff, in 50 years, you'd get a double amount, so.
So
at
Scott,
2%.
You may be here in 50 years, but I won't be.
Okay, go ahead, Cindy.
yeah, do we have enough information to give to Michael to bring back something based on what we're talking?
No, I don't.
He's saying no.
I say no, I don't think so, unless Michael thinks he heard something different here. I know we're kind of stuck in the middle without any
Should we
discussion or
Shall we
direction.
do like an ad hoc committee to meet one time and see if we can
No.
come up?
No, we're free to do it. All of us are right here. And we've said everything that there is to say, I think, unless there's more to say. We haven't given any direction.
I would say, based on what Russ says, bring that back to the table. And also look at the standards so we can compare that with what others do, along with the per diem, and bring those possibilities back to the board to review.
Okay. One of the things that we always do is take a look at our neighboring counties, right?
Yes.
Haven't done that.
We
it's
have done that in the
everybody's doing
past.
it by the law.
It depends on the agency and which portion of the government code
Yeah,
or the
because-
water code applies to.
Yeah,
that.
you can look at Tuolumne, and Tuolumne still gets $100 a meeting.
So there's some, right, so we did look at that, we could update that analysis and bring it back. If
Do we know what AWA gets per meeting?
I could see.
And the other thing, do they get benefits? Do those two, do either one of them get full benefits?
I don't believe so, but
Scott,
No, they
another thing, whenever we're looking at increasing anything for employees, they always go way outside of Calaveras County. So keep that in mind when they're looking for our
we
stuff.
did do that.
Colorado.
We looked at other agencies, not just within Calaveras County. We could go back and pull that up.
Director information as well, not just employees. If you're gonna bring back
Yes.
information, do it like you would for the employees.
Exactly, right.
Thank you.
Okay, do we
AWA
want-
is
do we-
119.80.
Say it again?
AWA is 119.80, and they get life insurance policy.
Okay. Those are the kind of things we're going to be discussing in the future. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. And I think we're going to find not as many boards out there are getting what we get, health benefits, and costing what we cost, what it costs to do that. And I'm thinking we're gonna find out that this 120 that we're talking about is a pittance compared to that benefit. But anyway, let's
So
do. if
would
that's
you
what we
like
wanna
us to
do-
bring those numbers back and have another discussion without the public
Yeah.
notice of an ordinance?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Then we can do that.
Okay.
And who knows, maybe because we have such good other benefits that we decide we're gonna go down to 100 instead of 120.
Maybe.
Maybe it'll go backwards. Who knows?
Okay.
Anything's
I wanna be
possible,
fair.
Cindy.
I
Anything's
wanna
possible.
be fair.
All right, moving on. We got direction on that, Michael, for enough to bring it back? Okay. All right, so moving on, 6, reports. Damon, Operations and Engineering Departments.
Good afternoon again. So
More pictures?
more pictures, more show and tell. A lot of similar show and tell, but I think you'll find in this ops report, there's a lot of pictures from other service areas and other departments also. So we'll jump right in here. 6-inch water main break, Kirby. I just want to illustrate in pictures here what can happen when you have high pressure and a water main break to the road and to surrounding areas. So this is kind of seen this a few different times. One time on Usher, 4 o'clock in the morning, I went out to a line break and the neighboring driveway was just covered in sand from the pipe trench and base rock from the pipe trench. And so you see field crews cleaning the property. And then here is the Mini X working on the road. You can see how much water is in the trench. And as they excavate in the image on the right, you can see the service tap saddle. And you can see what happens here is this rubber blows out and then slowly erodes away the pipe and boom. AC main explodes and you have a line break. And so the image on the right shows the full repair with a section of C900 pipe with some Hymax connections and then the tap. This is cleaning up the site and backfilling with base rock up to the asphalt layer. And then that will be patched and then we'll come back and final pave that. This is a on-call.
On
Yeah.
the picture with the guy standing there in the mud with the blue, yeah, does that stay on there?
Yep.
The thing sticking off, it's
So-
buried and stays on the pipe.
That's correct. So in the image on the right, you can see kind of with the blue wire around it, that is actually the service line connection. So what will happen is they'll recouple the service line through that piece of brass that's right there in the middle of the pipe. Yeah, that's the tap.
Okay. Oh,
That
I
is,
see.
and so when you hear about a corporation stop, that corporation stop is a valve on that tap. So if, some field crews, if they can blow down, for lack of a better term, excavate down to that corporation stop, if there was an issue on the service line, you could actually shut it off.
Okay.
And then keep the pipeline in water if you were able to do and do work on a service line. Oftentimes, we don't know exactly where the corporation stop is, so it's much more expedient to just dig up the service and then find it rather than pothole for it.
Okay, thanks.
You said you were out there at 4 o'clock in the morning. What?
On a
time?
different one, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Not this one.
No, not this one. When I get the calls from the on-call person or the field crew, at 3, 2, 4 in the morning, something's going on. And so it's important for me to get out there and see what's happening. I don't know if this thing stopped working. Oh, you're good.
Is that a DC line?
That is, yep. Yeah. And so we have a lot of AC, all, in copper and up on the pass and less so up on the pass, but still significant amount and a significant amount in Rancho. So this is an example of a service line up an embankment before it hits the meter set. So you can see kind of what the on-call, this happened to be a mechanic who was on call and responded to this service line repair. And you can see what, folks are going to find when they're driving down the street. And then what he found when he excavated, and then that's the full circle clamp. So this is what the underground utility crew is replacing are all these service lines that are splitting and cracking. Here's an example of the Jenny Lynn distribution crew working on Heineman. Have to replace a service line under a gas main. So just kind of an illustration of some of the challenges that are associated with the work. So hats off to that crew for understanding, and completing the USAs and understanding what kind of other utilities are in the repair area.
And even in an emergency, USA comes out.
Yeah, you can call in an emergency USA. And with that in mind, our guys also have good relationships with the other utilities, so they can actually call in the USA and then call the foreman that they know that works in the area and let them know, hey, we have an emergency ticket in. Can you guys address that ASAP? We get the same calls from, PG&E or other utilities. They'll call me sometimes too.
What's that pipe made of?
That is, that's plastic. That's PVC, I believe, the gas main.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like a polypropylene. Yeah, it's a big, thick, heavy duty poly.
I can attest to the fact that it can be severed, not severed, but you can cut it with a shovel.
Yeah, I've been close. Actually. This is an interesting one. Jenny Lynn distribution operators got right on this. So this is a line in the ground at the Jenny Lynn water plant. The stainless steel towers you see in the back are the ozone towers. So we push ozone gas into those towers and we flow water up one half of the tower and down the other half, and ozone gas bubbles out of these pumice reactors, and they make these really fine bubbles. And there's a water line in the ground and it cools the ozone reactors. And so that sprung a leak, and our guys were on it. You can see they're jackhammering the asphalt there. And then the image on the right is a coupling that was leaking that they exposed. And then they went ahead and replaced that with a Romac or a dresser coupling, they could oftentimes call it. And so then the ozone generator's back in business, and problem solved. Here's a 2-inch on McCall, cut out a section of a 2-inch main. So we have these Bluebell 2-inch mains in sections of Rancho that give us problems. And you can see the image on the left had a couple different repair clamps on it. So our guys just cut that section out, and installed a section of Schedule 80 PVC. Here's an interesting one. Surge protector on the control valve in the pump station fails. And what does it do? It shoots water all over the place. And so it's just kind of an illustration of some of the challenges that are associated with pump stations and why it's really important to keep MCC panels closed and shut off, because you never know when water is gonna give up the ghost, so to speak. So the image on the right, it's kind of hard to see it sideways, but you can see the control valve at the top of the picture, and you can see a repair coupling that's installed on the left of the picture, and you can see the small brass connections also, or the copper connections on the brass fittings. So you got a lot of failure points there, and the control valves have a lifespan, so they have a diaphragm that operates inside of them, and they open and they close based on differential pressure between the top of the control valve and the bottom of the control valve, and you can actually really closely regulate flow. And sometimes those fail.
What would the manufacturer do?
We generally mostly use clay valve. Yeah. So here's the installation of a T on a 2-inch standpipe. So this would be a standpipe for fire protection that our Ebbets Pass distribution crew installed. So the image of the left is the installation of the valve, and you can see the valve at the far left of the T with some of the tags still on it. And then the image on the right is of a service line repair that happened just near the valve. And this is an image of what tree roots can do to a service line. So you can see the image on the right is the tree root had damaged that blue poly service line. And you can see the guys have it clamped there in the image on the right. So these are the service lines, once again, that the underground or the utility crew is going to routinely go around and replace. Here's a service line replacement on Navajo. So they found, a multiple repair band service line that was springing a leak again. And so the distribution crew went ahead and made the repair. And then you can see this is an after hours response to a Meadowmont pump station, pump failed to stop. So often these pumps have control valves on the discharge sides of the pump. And when they're called to shut off, which is usually based on a control level, it'll trigger a little solenoid switch, and then it'll push water on top of this diaphragm and seat the valve. And if it fails to stop, oftentimes that's because the control valve diaphragm has failed. Here's a good picture of an after hours repair. The image on the left, it's a T, and there's an apparatus that has shut water off on the pipe, the polypropylene service line that's pointing straight up. And behind that apparatus is water. It's charged. So our field guys do have tools where they can actually pinch the service line to make the repair. And then the image on the right is of the repair. And so here's a picture of a control valve. And the image on the left is the operating stem. So there's a little control solenoid that sits on that operating stem, tells it when to open and close by moving water off and on the bonnet. And the image on the right is mechanics getting ready to dismantle that bonnet in order to replace the diaphragm. So this is what it looks like when you take the top off. There's actually a control ring that sits on a stem inside. And then that diaphragm is below kind of that rusty water in the image on the right. And this image on the left here shows you that torn diaphragm where water can slip through and equalize. So then you just can't control the valve because there's water on both sides. And so the image on the right shows what it looks like when you install a brand new diaphragm and put that control ring back on top. And then what will happen next is they'll put the bonnet back on and put the control solenoid on the operating stem. And this all happens, usually with some sort of dolly or gurney to pick up that bonnet. It's pretty heavy. Here's an example of what we used to do with the crane company, where we're actually using our crane on a mechanic's truck to pull a motor off a pump. And this is the Hunter's water treatment plant pump station, effluent pump station. So you see the image on the right shows the mechanic that's inside working to connect the motor, which is operated by the mechanic on the outside who's running the crane. And they can pull that motor and send it in for repair. Here's some more crane operations inside of a lift station at Highway 26 where we have
So
to
how many-
set a pump.
How many doors or windows or holes in the roof that you can open and close?
So generally over each pump set would be an opening or a hatch with a skylight. It gets really interesting when you got to get on the roof in the wintertime.
Right.
But I mean, we do it. But yeah, you can kind of see the light coming through, and then the next pump over, the motor over, there would be another hatch right there.
What's the capacity of that crane?
I am not sure. It's quite large though, actually. But I don't know. I'll get that number for you.
The windings in that motor, I would estimate that thing weighs 1,300 pounds.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. Yep. I would agree with you.
So you're going to pay for that truck pretty quickly.
We say, I mean, and it's also time and speed because we can just, rather than try to schedule a crane for the next week, we can get with the mechanics and they can get right to it. This is Timber Trails pump station, another clay valve repair, and we replaced a mechanical seal on the pump as well. So the electricians do a lot of great work. Oftentimes, it looks like this, wired connections. So this is, there was feeder wires that were feeding the Connors Main lift station. It was operating on generator. There was some sort of power issue that had melted the feeder wire. So our guys went ahead and replaced it. And you can see the makeshift wire pole on the right with some steel pipe and conduit and a ladder.
And a broom.
Ingenuity at work at CCWD. Or
Looks like they made a clean sweep.
yeah, exactly. So oftentimes, this is the Bummerville pump station control scheme. So our electricians can plug into this PLC and they can understand which terminations are having issues, and then they can go ahead and make their repair. Really always impressed with the work that they do. Here's the spray filled time clock for the West Point wastewater treatment facility. Doesn't look like the irrigation time clock I have at my place, but they know how to operate it and do a great job. If you recall, we're in the middle of consolidating that that treatment plant with the Wilseyville, so we need to change how we operate the spray field right now. Here's some work that happened out here at the courtyard where we installed conduit for the PG&E service and the generator set. So this was electrical and construction working together to excavate the trench, install the conduit. PG&E came out, their inspector approved it, said great work. We were the only one who had some of the specific components they required for the trench install so we were the only approved trench that week for PG&E because they require some interesting notification tape for the trench. It needs to be a certain width. And most folks get like, I don't know, it's like 2.5, 3 inch wide, you know, it's pipe or whatever. And they call for like a 6 inch wide and they will fail you. And so it's always nice.
A new pond out here?
So it's kind of a retention pond to slow the flow of all of the stormwater as it leaves the site. Yeah.
Okay. Get some fish in there.
You know,
Well,
that'd be
plant.
good. Yeah. Swimming hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I just wanted to kind of show that the material supply issues have not gone away. This is a brand new truck we received from Enterprise. And that's where the Ford emblem would be. But the Ford emblems are about 4 months out. And so Ford is finally saying, you know what, we don't have everything, but here you go.
Order a Chevy one.
They have the same thing, but they actually give you a list of the things that your truck doesn't have. Ford just sends you the truck and you have to go figure it out. So this one also doesn't have.
Wheel is
Yeah.
missing.
Yeah. So.
I heard about those blue emblems.
You're right.
Read
Yeah.
about
So
it.
we're gonna fab some out of some wood. And we'll put them on there.
Yeah.
Some burl, some nice F-150 in burl on the side.
Nice.
Yeah.
How's the enterprise system going?
It's working really well. You know, and we've heard multiple times about the board's request to get a little bit more info. So Mike Crank, the purchasing agent, and I have been working on a presentation.
Yeah,
for
because we
y'all.
have
So, yeah.
asked that before.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, and duly noted, and we're working on that. But, you know, it really gives us an opportunity to bring more trucks on board than we have the ability to purchase all at once.
In a timely manner.
Yeah, and we have, that said, we still have a ton of trucks on the road that are 2006
Yeah.
vintage. And we have to keep them running to keep the crews effective. And so that's continues to be a challenge. We're starting to see the supply chain issues kind of lessen a little bit. We're starting to see trucks. We actually got 2 trucks delivered the last couple of months. Those were ordered in 2021. So if you recall, with this fiscal year's budget, we just kept the same request we had for enterprise trucks the year prior because we didn't receive them. And so we're starting to see a little bit of improvement with other makes. So one of the things about operating with one make is you can buy one part and it can fix multiple trucks. If you start jumping makes, that's going to become a challenge. But what we're starting to see is Ford isn't going to offer the same incentives they used to, and the other companies may. We've been provided a guarantee of 1 service truck through Ford for next fiscal year. So they will only give us 1. So we might have to figure some things out. Yeah.
Why don't you stick like a Santa Claus hat out that opening? Just
That's a good idea.
Nice. One of those reindeer antlers.
Yeah.
And looking at some of these pictures here, it would appear that you must have a large box full of shark bite connectors.
We do. Yeah. And they're super handy. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we do. Yep.
Greatest.
Yeah, they are. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Damon.
Appreciate
you.
General Manager.
All right. Long time between board meetings, but I will still try to keep this pretty quick. I don't have the hard copy, but we got a JPIA certificate, another award for low workers' comp claims. So we'll get another one up on the wall. Yeah, that was good news and credit to our staff and our safety committee and the work that staff do and how carefully they do it. And, you know, just in general, you probably hear me talk about staff a lot, but it's just, you know, it's remarkable the amount of work that we get done and to do it, you know, with all that, with the care that they exercise to take care of themselves and take care of each other, but it also helps protect the district, is really remarkable. And I think, you know, an example came up recently of how, you know, how diligent our crews are in talking to Damon after we've had some pretty good storms already this year. And we've come through them with very minimal issues. And I think that's a testament to how hard our staff work on maintaining and preparing for those events in advance. Just a lot of really hard work that's going on out in the field in order for us to get through those.
So we
events.
got one in workers' comp and liability?
This one was for workers' comp. I don't think we get the certificates for liability. We get.
We
the
got one in
cardboard-
Indian Wells for liability.
We get the cardboard checks.
That's the President's Special Recognition Award, Aqua JPIA, to us that was just given in, says for achieving a low ratio of paid claims and case reserves to deposit premiums in the liability program.
I thought this one was.
Is it on the
workers'
wall?
comp.
Yeah, I got a picture of it here. It's for our liability program.
Is that the picture I texted you?
What? Yeah, you sent it to me. When I was,
Oh, okay. Well, that's the one we're talking about.
okay, yeah.
Sorry, I misspoke. Either way.
No,
Still
good.
credit
good,
to our crews for
Okay.
getting us there.
Which is the one that equates to giving back on our premiums or whatever?
So that's the property program, right?
And?
Same one.
And we've gotten checks the last 2 years.
Okay.
What's her name? Patricia from JPIA was just here.
Oh.
Gave us one this year. Earlier 2022.
No, yeah.
We got one price, I want to say 6 months ago. And
Um,
it wasn't Patricia this time, and I forget, oh, maybe it was Patricia this time. Last time it was the other gentleman. I can't remember his name.
David, financial guy.
Yeah.
David.
Okay.
So we had an EPOC meeting recently, and the reason I'm bringing that up because we have those every month, and I probably don't always reference those. It was Marita's last after 25 years, but she also one of the reports that she gave was really positive news from my perspective. The county still hasn't even, and maybe they've started now, but at least a couple of weeks ago, they hadn't started recruiting for a new county administrative officer yet. It's been several months since the last one left. And part of it was because I think they were revisiting organizational structure, and they've decided to shift to they're no longer going to call it a county administrative officer. It's going to be a chief executive officer or county executive officer. And each of the department heads will report to the CEO, which to me is a very welcome change. I think that's long overdue at the county instead of having department heads reporting directly to the board. So that's a positive development there, and we will look forward to whoever it is they fill that position with and continue to collaborate with the county. We had a week or a couple of days of DC meetings. We did them virtually again. My hope is that the next time will be an in-person visit, because these meetings went about as good as we could have expected and exceeded expectations in some cases. Really, really productive meetings. But there were definitely a few where it just seemed like we could have had some more discussion. We could have had a little bit more relationship building if we had been, sitting in the same room together. So I was, on one hand, I was really pleased with how the meetings went. On the other hand, it was a reminder of how valuable those in-person connections can be. But very productive meetings with senior Army Corps staff, with senior staff at the Office of Management and Budget, with the offices of all of our elected representatives, and with Congressman McClintock himself, and then staff members from our 2 senators' offices. Just really productive meetings across the board. Mia did a phenomenal job, as always, of not only getting those meetings, but making sure we were meeting with the right people, and that we were all kind of unified in the asks and the messages we were giving. So really productive discussions.
And one thing on that came out of it is they're certainly getting a lot more comfortable with us and knowing what we're there for. And the conversations are easier to have. It seems like that they're familiar with our program. They're familiar with the Copper Cove wastewater treatment plant and what's going on there. And everyone's kind of on board to help us. We've been doing this for 5 years, at least 5 years, working on that same $3 million, which is now $13 million. We got $1 million last year. We're asking for $5 million this coming year. All these people that we're talking to are very familiar with that program. And we used to hear, you got to kind of get your foot in the door. You got to kind of get your foot in the door before there's other people that are halfway through their project. Well, we got our foot in the door, and everyone is paying attention to us. It does seem that it's so much nicer to talk to these people. They got something to say back.
We were told just a few years ago that they were not going to include any new projects at all.
Right. I think I'm glad you raised that. It really is. I've seen this shift. It started before I got here, but I think we're starting to really see the benefits of the sustained effort that the district has invested in here, and the familiarity with those offices is I think really proving to be valuable. And it's something that we saw other mostly larger agencies experience. And that's what we were after. And I think we're finally getting to that point.
Mia seemed giddy during these virtual meetings. It's awesome.
So yes, all very good, but looking forward to being able to connect with those folks in person. And then followed up on that with legal affairs, more good, valuable input from Mia there, and a little bit of a discussion of the upcoming legislative session and some of the bills that Aqua is looking to sponsor in the next legislative session. So that'll ramp up again, starting late January, and I'll be probably bringing some position recommendations to the board for supporting. There's 5 different requests for sponsorship for Aqua this year, and I think they're probably going to sponsor 4 and support the 5th, and then the anticipation is there's going to be a lot of work in addition to that regarding water rights, again, on low-income ratepayer assistance, since SB 222 was vetoed last year. So I think legislation this year is going to be very busy on the waterfront, well, this coming year. And on the regulatory side, so the Aqua Conference was first week of this month. I didn't go, but Jessica was there representing CCWD, and participated in some meetings with 3 of the State Water Resources Control Board members, which can be difficult meetings to get. And Jessica did a great job in giving them our perspective on the water use efficiency standards and how difficult that's going to be for us to comply, in addition to fire flow requirements and disinfection byproduct water quality issues, and some of the other challenges that we face as a Mountain County water agency. They were really receptive to that. We're preparing for follow-up meetings with those board members, including potentially some site visits up here to Calaveras County. They want to see and hear more from us. So those, I think, were really successful meetings, and in some ways gave us a little bit more work that we signed ourselves up for. But I think being involved in those discussions, making sure they see the realities that we're dealing with, and making sure that as they're shaping the implementation of the new water use efficiency standards, that they are taking our issues into consideration and creating flexibility where we need it, because they're receptive to the fact that, you know, they can't create a regulatory environment where there's no, you know, path to success for us, where we can't comply one way or another. We're going to fall short unless they create some flexibility for us. So really productive discussions on that front. And I think we'll be bringing back, once we get those meetings set, and we'll probably be bringing more updates back to the board on that. Let's see. Oh, we got an update from Tyler on rolling out the smart meter portal, which is the bells and whistles that we'll soon start to be able to appreciate through the tracking of leaks and water consumption tracking, all the great tools that we have access to as a district now, and that customers are going to have access to soon. I think customers are going to be really excited about it, and we'll probably be rolling that out in the next month or two, hopefully early this next year. More work on the rate study, working closely with IB Consulting, making sure they have all the information they need. That'll be coming back to the board in the next month or two. And also on that same front, I went to UPUD's Prop 218 hearing last week. And they're proposing a very significant rate increase. They ended up not voting on it at that meeting. They'll bring it back for consideration, but it looks like it's going in the direction of pretty significant rate increases at UPUD. Oh, and speaking of UPUD, really enjoyed working with Summer Nicotero there. She took over as the GM, I think in March. And she's very sharp, and we've had a good, productive working relationship with her, and we hope that will continue at her new role.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, she's on to another job.
She's on to another job, and
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about it, because I was very disappointed. Was really looking forward to her being at UPUD and continuing to work with her there, but we will also, I think, really value her as the new GM at Trident. So,
right.
I think that's going to help improve that relationship, and she's going to, you know, we've already built a good rapport and relationship and trust with her. So she starts at Trident on January 3rd.
Yeah, just the fact that, you know, we know someone personally.
Right.
Makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
What was the percentage increase that UPUD was discussing at their meeting? You say significant, is that 25?
Yeah, I want to, I wish
I thought I heard 25.
I think it was maybe 20 in year one, and then smaller 10 after that. I can't remember exactly what it was. I can get that for you.
No, I was just curious.
But fairly significant, and even more on the ag side. Their ag rates are going up very significantly.
Anything further?
That's it.
All right, item number 7, board reports. Start with.
I'm gonna go that way.
Russ.
Okay.
Get ready.
I have a fair amount to talk to you about. I should be finished by 5. So.
Take your time.
Should be home by 5.
Won't be anyone over here.
Why don't you go last?
Well, never mind. Cindy, are you ready? No, go ahead, Russ.
Cindy, are you still with us?
I am. You want me to go? Mine's quick.
Okay, yeah, you go first.
Yeah. So there is no IRWM meeting this week or this month. And then I was going to ask you about UPUD, but you already did that for me. And then also, are we going to be talking about perk relicensing anytime soon?
Yes.
You don't have to answer, just putting it out there.
Yes.
And then Merry Christmas, everybody. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Bertha, go ahead.
Well, what about Russ? You give it to Russ.
No,
He said he wants to go last.
No, Jeff's gonna walk out if I go. First of all, I really think that it's appropriate and well-deserved that we give a kind of an atta girl to Cindy for her year as president. I think did a great job under adverse conditions with everybody sniping at her and everything. I for one appreciate your efforts, Cindy, and good job all around.
You're here.
Okay, and then on our new president, I've talked to Brandon to see if we can get prices for a teleprompter for you. Every president.
Brandon. You mean, let's go, Brandon?
No.
That guy?
Brandon down the hall, our IT guy. No, I think it's totally appropriate that we would keep you on script. Okay. It could say,
I got a teleprompter, right?
you do.
I'm reading my
It could
script.
just go down, they could say, open the meeting.
Okay.
And it'll, I would appreciate it because hopefully I'll follow you as president and I'll need one.
All right.
Okay, let's talk about Aqua.
I'll get you one if you promise to stay on script.
Okay. I can't go off script. The Aqua Conference, what's kind of stands out in my mind in a negative way is that I wasn't quick enough to pull the trigger on saying that I wanted to go. And as a result of that, I got a lot of steps in. We were booked into a hotel that was not terribly far away, but I definitely can attest that I got my steps in more than you. And you were in the complex, so to speak. So my advice would be, since Aqua has made a 3-year commitment, this is the first of the 3-year commitment. The next 2 years, they'll be back at that same facility. So when you see the announcement that they're wanting reservations, to get them in if you want
Yes,
to go.
Cindy, Rebecca's already on that. Yeah.
She's
Okay.
very good at that.
Yeah.
You contact her early, you'll be in.
Okay. And sort of day by day, some of the things that we discussed that I was really surprised that went to a roundtable discussion on the impacts of housing densification on water agencies. Nobody is developing any policies on that. And what that is the new rulings.
Accessory dwellings.
Yeah.
Accessory dwellings, yeah. And where they can go and the fact that we can't really charge appropriately for them or charge at all for them. And I can see where that's going to really put the hurt on our agency and perhaps a lot of others. But and I had a chance to work with Larry, the GM over at Amador, on that roundtable talk. I think he's going to be a good friend for us. So, okay, we had a nice ice cream break.
God, you're killing me right now.
They did something different there. They
You need a Joe prompter. That's what didn't.
They put the ice cream bars over in the areas where the division 3, regions 2, 3, 5, so that it prompted people to go over there and actually attend the meetings, which was a good.
A good carrot.
Yeah, it was a good carrot. And I brought a bunch of swag back for Director Underhill. Did you have a chance to look through that?
No, I haven't.
Let's get it out.
Okay. I think that's all I have to say about Aqua Conference, and thanks for your indulgence. Yeah, I cut it down to 5 minutes instead of an hour, so.
Right. Hey, Bertha,
What about Jeff?
are you ready? You're not ready. Jeff, go ahead.
Well, my dog got out the other day. That's kind of pain.
Did he chew up any water lines?
Can't think anything else? Okay. I'll report it rained the other day, but that's all I got. In the interest of time. Go ahead, Bertha.
All right. I just have to make a statement about our field forces. I hope you know up the hill, we got dumped upon. And it's really great to wake up to 26-degree weather and thinking about the field forces up at White Pine Park. I mean, these guys, and they have to not only go up to the White Pines Park, you know, of course, we have broken things or whatever, and they're traipsing over the snow, and we have lots of snow up there. And so I'm just letting you guys know that we're taking care of you. And then the only other thing is that I got a notification that I completed 25 years with the Sierra Club.
Congratulations. Thank you for increasing our property values. Keep up the good work.
All right, next board meetings, Wednesday, January 11th and Wednesday, January 25th, right here in this room. Item number 9, closed session. We got conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, and conference with labor negotiations, employee organization, SEIU. Any public comment?
Michael, are we
Any-
having a finance committee meeting next week?
That's the current plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is anyone online, Rebecca, for public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we're gonna go to closed session, right now.
Rebecca,
Thank you,
I
Ralph.
stay here.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Ralph.
Have a great Christmas.
Merry
Bye, Cindy, just hang on there.
Merry Christmas, Jessica, Damon.